dancing on my own. See if you can follow. Got me feeling alive. Watch me go, lose control. Is this real? All I feel. Break the signs, every time. Let's be real, be real, be real. I do what I want. Ooh, I do what I want. Ooh, I do what I want. Ooh, I do what I want. Hear me now, I do what I want. Are you ready now? 'Cause it won't be easy. Only get what you work for. Gotta go all out. Whenever you see me, don't be wasting my time. Watch me go, lose control. Is this real? All I feel. Break the signs, every time. Let's be real, be real, be real. I do what I want. 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 Hear me now. Watch me go, lose control. Is this real? All I feel. Break the signs, every time. Let's be real, be real, be real. I do what I want. 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 Hear me now. I do what I want. I do what I want. I do what I want. Hear me now. I do what I want.
I've seen enough things to lose hope, and here I am still going. I am even stronger now. Evil is lurking around, and maybe I'm mistaken. You know I was feeling alright. Like something on my face, something in my veins. Feel right. forever within ourselves. Some do even know, and life again. And then we'll become just nothing at all. Just nothing. Just nothing. Just nothing. Just nothing at all. Nothing at all. And then we'll become just nothing at all. We've seen all the way to ourselves just to know what it meant, so you took it away. Till times rather connected, just like gonna. Welcome to LXC.
Down in the rift again, where champions ascend. Warden League lights the night.
In the bush. But what he doesn't know is there is a deer right behind him, and I think Alternative might be in a bad spot. And never mind, it looks like Boulder's in the bad spot. So he's having to disengage, but this Lily is getting involved, and I believe Alternative is unfortunately going to fall as he Valkyries into his death. And now we see Goat, Mr. Peels, is dying. And unfortunately for he's able to get the trade though on Boulder, so it's not the end of the road, but we on the downside for Contingent Orange is the fact Smolder's on the board. Unfortunately, there's not enough follow-up damage. Well, on the bright side, they're able to get the dragon, but now this Orin is getting involved. He wants the Orin to go wide, and now we see Quay is getting attacked by all four members. But unfortunately, Dad lives. Dad will live, but now we see the Olaf. He's in all four members here, and he is absolutely CC immune, and he is causing problems to all the teams. He's able to pick up a double kill for himself, and now he's on the goat. But we see the flash come out. That is across the wall for Dab. But Nocturne is getting involved here, but he's going in 1v3. Mocha does a great job of flashing out, and unfortunately, she does not realize that she's going to pick up the kill, but we see a shockwave as Banger is getting involved, and he goes a little too aggressive there, but we now see Cherry getting the knock up and getting him. Never mind.
Oh, damn! She doesn't have flash yet.
Yeah, but speaking of aggressive, this Mordekaiser's here as another ult comes in. Mordekaiser flashes in and grabs Dab, but Dab is doing a great job of buying time. As now we see Misfortune on the outside is getting a massive bullet time, and they're able to pick up Mocha. Now, Peels, he gets a massive pull, lands on 3. Velvet is getting involved with her E, but now we see Alternative in the backline, not able to pick up the kill on the Orianna, but we're seeing Peels is getting a lot of damage down as Cassante is putting up a fight. He's able to pick up on the Ash, and on the other side of the map, they're able to pick up the kill on the Velvet, and now we're seeing this is an absolute great fight for Akuma, as they're able to pick up a massive, massive win, only losing 1.
Diamond wreck, shining pure. Victory is near for sure. In the galaxy we'll soar. Rising up, we'll take the
Hello, everybody, and welcome. It's a happy Thursday, right? And we're so excited. We're going to be starting off the Warden League playoffs here. This is going to be our play-in match. It's going to be between the 5th seed Egonog versus a team I've cast before. It's going to be Contingent Esports Orange, ranking at that 4th seed. I'm Badger, and I'm joined today by Righteous. Righteous, how you doing?
Good. How you doing tonight?
I mean, hey, I've never been better, man. I'm excited to watch some games. Yeah, it's going to be good. Like it said, these teams have something to prove, right? This is our only playoff match.
Mm-hmm.
We're gonna have to see realistically. I know that Egonog actually 3 of their 5 players are not returning. These are new players that have not played for this roster before. I believe Zohair, Helper, and Quality Player are coming in, hoping to rally this team up and give them a shot at maybe making a playoff run.
Yeah, last time we saw these teams match up in the regular season was way back on week 4. Like you said, totally different roster. There's actually E-sub used by Hugo Nog, and so Contingent Esports kind of took a pretty convincing 2-0 win there. But they're looking to prove that that was a fluke, that they'll have all their bans, some new players, and ready to go right up against them.
Absolutely. And I mean, looking at this patch here and looking at what like the champs that we're gonna see, are there any things that you're expecting, like early picks in the draft or potentially contested picks, looking for both these rosters?
Yeah, I'm curious to see. We saw a couple of players spamming Nasus in their games. I'm curious to see if that comes
Mhm.
out as a potential flex. A la like most of the pro scene we've been seeing. You know, it's playoffs. A lot of people tend to go towards more comfort. So we'll probably see some of that as well. So I'm just
Mhm.
excited to see what they whip out game
Mhm.
one.
100%. I mean, I keep talking about it every time I've been casting. I've just been seeing Misfortune Jin, Misfortune Jin. I think Varus is kind of showing up right now with those lethality changes, but right now I feel like the meta is to just pick that blind AD carry and kind of fill in the gaps here. But especially looking at like the rosters individually, we were talking about it before the stream started. Ego Nog's roster, their mid and top are kind of their star players at this point, right? Valka I think is ranked fourth in solo kills. He's able to potentially take a lead, and he's going to be able to use a lot of pressure there. But we'll have to talk about that in a little bit since draft's starting for us.
Yeah, and I'm looking forward to seeing what these bans are. It'll tell us a lot about what we're going to approach here in draft. We see Belveth taken away from Cherry this game one, kind of signature pick for her, and Elise in return.
100%. And also echoing back on that Belveth ban, we got to see the one time that champ got through when playing against Contingent Esports Orange. She was the absolute carry in that game. And while they weren't able to take it home, we realized why that champ is now on that ban list. And also, we were talking about the dog, right? Nasus is coming out as that second ban for Ego Nog.
Yep, so people did some scouting, able to see that it's getting played, so might as well take it out if we don't play it ourselves. We can't B1 it. Just ensure that it can't be used as a flex against us.
hmm
Senna and Ziggs rounding out the rest of the bans for us.
I mean, kind of just going with like those staple like meta picks, right? Senna's been super strong these past couple patches. Ziggs is one of the best like blind 80 carries, just giving you that AP source, and then Rel's just always a reliable engage. But I'm
Eh,
really excited to see what this first pick is. I think we could potentially be seeing that Misfortune. I know Ruffian is a big fan of it.
Yeah,
Um,
Misfortune is one of those picks that, when piloted well, can be really, really good. But instead, we see the Corki coming out as a potential mid lane for Ego Nog. Very interesting after we saw several rounds of nerfs towards AD mid lane carries. I'm
mhm.
excited to see how that kind of goes, but a little bit confused as well.
I am also confused on why that is our priority pick. I've been messing around with Corky mid still, and the fleet it does not feel as strong as it did on the patch, right? And I've even seen some Corky 80 carries, but now I'm seeing them position more to first strike. But speaking of a really good pick, Ash is potentially going to be the lock in for Contingent Orange.
Ash was a staple a couple of patches ago, but like the Corki, got several rounds of nerfs, especially taking HP out of her kit alongside with the Dorn's Blade nerfs. So curious to see how that is piloted. A little bit squishier, a little bit more vulnerable in lane, so we could potentially see a kill lane come out from Ego Nog in response.
hmm I agree, but you still got to also think about the utility that Ash brings to the table,
Sure.
right? Her hawk shot, her arrow across the map. She's such a good utility 80 carry and just is able to build a team around it. But oh my gosh, is that going to be this locked in early? Is that in response to the Corky there?
All right. Well, we're feeling confident on the side of Contingent Orange. Zed, definitely a lane dominant pick, especially when piloted well. But once you get into that mid to late game, it really relies on the skill of the player. It's not something that is really good in team fights in the 5v5 situations. Kind of susceptible in long lanes as well, depending on what you're going against. So, really interested to see how well it's piloted.
hmm I think it is a good response to the early Corky, right? I do think with these nerfs, Corky is not as blindable as he used to be, and I think Zed is one of the answers. It's also one of Alternative's favorites. But in response to that Ash and Zed, we see Udyr come out. Strong pick here for Zohair, I'm most likely.
Yeah, I mean, Udyr is definitely like one of those champs that has kind of gone the
Mhm.
wayside in terms of priority, but really, really strong. Good clear, good healthy clear. Can be a presence in lanes, especially early, and we see the Seraphine paired with it. I think it's a pretty good 1-2 punch. Udyr goes in, you buff him up, get a straight ult through whatever you're going against with the quirky damage coming over the top. So really, really team fight oriented coming out of the side of Yugonug.
hmm And while that Seraphine is usually seen in the support nowadays, it is still have the possibility to be a flex, right? We could see Ruffian piloting it as well, and it also could give them a little bit more leeway in these B4 and B5 picks in this draft. But Lily is coming out, and a very good answer into this Udyr.
Yeah, so Contingent Orange on the other side, their team fight looks a little scary to me, but they do have lots and lots of pick and skirmish potential with the Zed Lily pairing as well as with the Ash, the ulti that you talked about. But it's interesting. Contingent up until this point, I would say they were the more team fight oriented team. Lots of objective fights, lots of objective control. But I don't necessarily see that comp giving them that power that they've played towards. So it'll be interesting to see if they can pull it off.
And now getting into the bans, I'm really surprised to see that one. It's Yorick from the side of Contingent Orange. I know that that is one of Valko's favorites in solo queue, but I do not know if we've seen it actually from him in this amateur scene. So I'm surprised it comes out. Maybe they're just really nervous about it and wanting to make sure that that side lane is contained.
Yeah, I mean, it could be a potential hard answer into the Zed, right? Zed wants to go on the side lane, get that push, rotate, look for assassinations. But if the York's just sitting there doing his thing, Zed kind of gets nullified in that regard. So pretty good ban.
Yeah.
And we see Leona, kind of a staple across multiple patches now, out of the side of the Ego Nog. Interesting takeaway. I think if it was left up, could have been a potential pairing with the Seraphine if we wanted to go that APC route, but we didn't want to give it to on the R4. I could totally understand that.
Very fair. And I know Mocha is a very big fan of these engaged supports, right? I saw a very staple Recon come out. I think that is one of their favorites. So I think, honestly, if it is not banned, I'm expecting that to be the R4 for the side of Contingent Orange. But we might see the Nautilus ban, that Recon ban, but there's still a lot of engaged supports up. So you aren't going to be able to get rid of all of them.
Yeah, and I mean, you look at the side of Contingent Orange, what they're lacking is that engage, right? Outside of the Ashe ulti, not a lot of hard CC, not a lot of peel. So really good takeaways from Ego Nog. But Camille comes out for that second ban. Kind of the same thing, right? You have the E engage, the ult, but a little bit more of that pick and skirmish potential just taken away from the side of Contingent Orange.
And I mean, that Camille pick is very, very potent as an R5, right? If you get the right matchup, she's able to absolutely run away with the game. And the fact that she has the potential to ulti on the Seraphine, ulti on the Corki, and lock them down, give her Zed and Lilia the time to move in, that could be really dangerous. So I think it's a really good ban from the side of Ego. But we were talking about it, right? These potential tank v tank matchup as he's hovering their Cassante, but it looks like he's going to go with the big goat man instead.
Yeah, the Ornn opens it up. And really safe blind, obviously. That engage that we said we're lacking is definitely found in the Ornn. Kind of opens up the pick for that R5, making sure that you have a pushing lane with the Ashe to utilize that skill, that hawk shot as well. So decent pick.
Mm-hmm. And while they're hovering over this Nautilus, it looks like they're maybe still deciding if they want to send that Seraphine to the AD carry position or the support. But with that Nautilus lock-in, we now know where it's going, so it's probably just going to be a top lane pick here for Valka.
Yeah, and I mean the Nautilus is taken away from Contingent Orange, right? And it's what most people answer the Rakan into, kind of dissuading that Rakan pick on the R5. So a really good takeaway. Munda coming out as well from Ego Nog. Kind of a lane bully, right? Especially into something like the Ornn. You can definitely sustain all that Ornn has to offer, and it kind of just a one noodle fight up there.
I think on the side of Ego Nog, they have set themselves up to go late. Go for the you have the Seraphine, you have the Corki, and Mundo is one of the best scalers right now on those side lanes, right? If he's left unchecked, he's going to be an absolute problem. And when you have a lane, when you're laning into Ornn, he's not going to bully you out as bad as some of these other picks. So I think this is one of his favorite champs, right? He's gotten so many solo kills on it. This is what has caused him to go fourth in that ranking. But we see Milio coming out, giving a little bit of support for that Ashe. So
Yeah, I mean, Ash Milio is kind of like one of those lane dominant lanes we were talking about, right? Especially into the Seraphine Nautilus. Not a lot of DPS in that lane, so Ash Milio can definitely get that shove. I am a little worried about Ego Nog's draft in terms of straight DPS, right? It's a lot of burst potential and a lot of sustain, but not a lot of damage outside of that Corki Seraphine. Whereas you look on the side of Contingent Orange, lots and lots of damage, but maybe not so much sustain other than that Milio. So it'll be kind of a clash of styles in this game one. I'm pretty excited to see.
I am a little bit worried about how Egonog is going to deal with Lilia, right? I think she gets a lot of value into this comp, the Udyr, the Nautilus, the Dr. Mundo. I think if they're not able to lock her down, not able to hit that Seraphine ultimate, it's going to be tough. And I think Cherry's going to maybe have a chance to run away with this game. But still, I was also going to echo off of what you said. I think realistically, Corki is their only great consistent damage. Maybe a Mundo if it gets to like 30 minutes, but it really is relying on a quality to kind of step up and not get punished by the Zed, which is going to be really hard.
Yeah, and I mean Ego Nog, I thought they were the better skirmishing team of these two teams coming into this first playoff match. They're gonna have to get to objectives early and be able to poke out this side of Contingent Orange, right? Because we talk about there's not a lot of damage, but they have a good poke, right? Mundo Qs, Seraphine Qs, Corki Q, and ENR. And so it's really just dependent on them kind of setting the tone and how objectives are taken while Contingent Orange has to look for that pick beforehand.
100%. I think right now I'm looking at it, and I think you have to be very I'm talking about it a lot, but that mid lane matchup is super volatile, right? If this Corki falls behind, Egonog is going to fall right behind with him, right? If this Lilia does a great job of enabling the Zed's able to walk around with this Lilia. I've seen it before. Alternative and Cherry, they do a great job of pairing together and making sure that both are self-sustained. I think if Egonog does not shut that down, this Corki, the Seraphine are going to have a really, really bad time in these late game team fights.
Yeah, I mean, on the opposite side as well, like the Zed can be a pick that looks really, really useless if put behind early, right? Those pick potentials we were talking about kind of go to the wayside, right? Because Lily will have damage, Ash will have damage, but that burst will be missing if the Zed gets put behind. So look for action early and often mid. I mean, Corky's trying to scale, obviously, right? But you cover that scaling from Corky, you'll be pretty set on this side of Ego Nug.
Yeah, 100%. The other player I'm looking for to potentially try to end shed a lead is Mundo, right? Even if he's not able to get that early CS lead, if he's able to stay even in this lane, not get shut down by Cherry, he's going to be a monster late game. I think there isn't a great champion on the side of Contingent Orange who's going to be able to stop him on that split later. Potentially a Lilia with a Zed, but I think in the one-on-one situation, Mundo's going to be okay to kind of just be wailing on the towers, headbutting them, letting that tower know who's boss, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, I think there's a lot of opportunity here. I'm really excited to see both of these drafts and how they play out. It's
Who
gonna
you
be a
got?
banger, I think.
Who you got?
Is it what my brain says or what my heart says? Because my heart says Ego Nog, but I'm nervous about that Lilia, man. I think that's a scary champ.
I think Egonog probably has the better composition in terms of like ease of execution. Contingent Orange though looks a lot more exciting, right? And so you want to see them succeed, but I'm probably gonna go Egonog just because I feel like it'll be an easier time for them to win.
Fair. Hey, but we're gonna have to see how that game ends up going. We're gonna cut to break, and we'll be right back after the spectator delay.
Something on my face, something in my veins still hurts. And I don't know what it takes, don't know what it takes to move on. Something on my face, something in my veins still hurts. And I don't know what it takes, don't know what it takes to move on. The more that I've done, the less I've become. I just live forever within our souls. So do it I know, and life will go on. But then we'll become just nothing at all. Just nothing, just nothing, just nothing, just nothing at all. Nothing at all, nothing at all, nothing at all. And then we'll become just nothing at all. I've seen enough things to lose hope, and here I am still growing. I am even stronger now.
All right, everybody, welcome back to the beginning of this series. And already we're seeing a little bit of action as all 5 members of Contingent Orange are positioned in this bot lane. They actually get the ward. Hey, that's +5
Yep.
on the side. That's huge. Big money,
Help.
right? But it looks like nothing's going to end up happening here.
Yeah, helper. Really smart ward. Sussing it out. Tells Red Side, go back to your own jungle. We don't want you here.
Speaking of their own jungle, right? We see Zohair and Valkyr positioning really aggressively here, looking to see if they can catch out Cherry. As Cherry is going to go over that ward, so she might end up running into trouble here. It looks like they're going to be, oh, unless she goes for these Raptors. If she goes for the Raptors, she might not get spotted, but she's going to spot the Ornn as Peels walks in and doesn't realize that Mundo and Udi are here. But that Blast Cone is probably going to be able to get him out, even though Valka doesn't go away with that passive on him. But Cherry's in a pretty bad position here. His Quality's also positioning very aggressive here. Cherry forced out. Ghost is down, but she's down as well. That is absolutely not how you want to start off this game.
Yeah, and Baywa kind of taking the losing side of a trade down bot as well. So train's a little bit off the rails for Red Side here early.
Already been so much action and the minions haven't even gotten here, right? But also, one thing I want to know, and maybe you can tell me why. Do you notice that Zed summoner spells?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like what you see, like, JoJo took it in the LCS on LeBlanc. It's a lot of trading power that you feel like you need on the Assassins. With ZW as that ult, he's really, really slippery, right? And so Flash kind of can take a back seat, but definitely punishable early as you see quality player playing really, really aggressive.
100%. I mean, Corki has that early advantage, right? A lot of the 80 mids have that like level 1 through 3 unlock, but then when it goes to 3, and it becomes a lot harder, I guess, for Corki to kind of reestablish himself. But they're using the fact they have that early advantage off to a pretty good start.
Yeah, and in a lane that I thought Ashe and Millie would be favored, we see Ruffian and Helper kind of taking it to him, forcing him back. Baywa, no sums, really low, might be look to take an early back here.
But now cutting up top, we see some aggressive trading here as Valka dinged level 3 right before Peels was able to hit it. So they're in a decent spot, probably just trading grass with the Undying procs. They're going to farm it up, get super tanky with it as Valka's zoning him off here. Going with some aggressive trading, but I don't think it's going to be enough damage as Peels finally gets his 3.
Yeah, you have the opportunity to maybe set up a slow push. You see Corki moving towards this top side of the jungle. Maybe could dive this Ornn potentially as Udyr comes up as well. But so far, just slow and steady, tank be tank.
Slow and steady. But we also got to mention Cherry is still up in the area, right? She cleared from bottom to top, so she could be here to cover that. But also, since Corki's coming back into lane, he's kind of being pressured out by Alternative a little bit. And it looks like Valka's kind of just happy to just push in these waves and get to that late game that he wants.
Yeah, I mean, so far so good from the side of blue. You know, you got that early first blood. You're playing the scaling, right? So really no pressure for you to win this early game.
Hang on.
Hard.
See an aggressive flash in there, or a Hex Flash from Helper. It looks to get the hook. It lands on Ashes, even though she's going to be trying to kite out. I think she's down, and Ruffian lands the Q and is able to get that kill, but Mocha might be next as Helper's walking him down, but it looks like, is it going to be enough? No, it is not, and that Q is not enough to finish it off. But on the top side now, we see Cherry is positioning very aggressively, and while Valka's able to flash in, trade flash for flash, I don't think he's going to be able to get the kill on Peels, and it looks like Cherry's going to be able to pick it up, and that tower shot is unfortunate, and Zohair was not able to get here in time, and it looks like he's just unfortunately going to have to walk away. As we didn't see it bot, but we see another kill as the Milio ends up dying there.
You're getting your money's worth here on the play-by-play today.
Yes, I am.
Action happening all over the map. Mocha overstaying, getting tower dove by the Seraphine Nautilus, but on the opposite side, right? Orm able to bait out maybe a little bit too aggressively. The Dr. Munod dying there.
Oh, and speaking of over aggressive quality, he lives on, I think it was 10 HP. It was so close there, and unfortunately, we saw the potential of the flash advantage, right, for quality, and he's probably shaking his head. He's so disappointed that he wasn't able to get that.
I don't know
kill.
what the all chat rules are for LXC, but if you're alternative there, that's when you hit calculated on the all chat, right? Like, I was never worried.
You hit calculated or you hit the question mark. That's my go-to, but it's a little toxic, so I don't know if it gets
But I mean, it's pretty interesting to see, right? We talked about blue side being scaling favored, also getting this early lead, right? So you're in the driver's seat. And now
And
the tempo
speaking of
definitely
driver's seat,
unstable.
Nautilus gets the dredge line off on Baywa. Baywa keeps getting hit by these, and even though she has the heal from Milio, it looks like they're going to be able to kite it out as the side of Egonog, they don't have any more gas in the tank.
Yeah, and Red Side might be feeling a little bit of pressure to kind of turn this game around, right? They are operating on a somewhat quick timer. You don't want to let this scaling team get too far ahead too early.
But right
But
now, we're seeing some aggressive posturing here from Cherry as well as the Zed. We might see a potential dive here as the mid laner has been brought down and Corki is not on the move. We're going to see if Egonog is going to be able to get out of this, but it's in a pretty tough position, but it looks like Zed, he might have gotten spotted on the ward right there, and it looks like, but Cherry's able to hit it. We're keeping him isolated, but great TP there used from Ruffian, going to be able to potentially bail out his support.
yeah, and I mean it's kind of a dangerous dive because you have Valka pushing in topside here as well. Could have potentially covered the dive with another TP. And so they're just gonna call it off.
An alternative is going behind here, but I think you have to be very cautious here. You're taking a lot of damage before you use your ultimate, and if you're not able to land your shurikens, it's going to be kind of tough. Quality's doing a great job of maintaining this lead, but right now Mocha's actually coming up top, and I think Quality does not realize that he's there. Alternative's going in with a W, ignites press, but I think Alternative didn't realize the amount of damage that Corey was going to be able to do, but unfortunately for Quality, Cherry is here, and I think she's going to be able to pick up that kill. Super easy.
Yep, Cherry picks with the kill, but Quality happy to get a kill of his own. Zed's kind of a loser in that trade, but good on Cherry for kind of salvaging the situation, especially look at that farm lead we see from jungle.
Oh yeah, you actually, I think that is just from like that set behind level 1, but
yeah.
Speaking of that level 1, we see Zohair's up 2 levels on Cherry, and Cherry gets caught out by the nice flash dredge line, and Alternative also having to W out. Zohair is flashing in, getting the stun, and right now, this is not where you want to be if you are Contingent Orange, as their jungle is completely boned.
Yeah, I mean, Alternative, right, especially feels bad when you come from a death straight into another one, right? This pace that this Udyr is able to set with that level 1 invid, Cherry's gonna have a tough time kind of clawing their way back into this.
100%. And I mean, right now, if you're Egonog, this is where you want to be, right? You were worried about your early game strength, right? You were playing into a Zed, you're playing into a Lilia, but they did a great job of taking the advantage level 1 and running with it. And they're in a great spot with right now a 3K or 2K gold lead, sitting here not even at 10 minutes.
We discussed before the game even started, right? We thought that Egonog might have been the better skirmishing team or early game team, and they're just doing that with a scaling composition. So cover all bases, you're gonna be sitting pretty good.
100%. But we also did mention the fact that on Contingent Orange, we were talking about their macro advantages as well, right? Egonog has not shown as good of macro side, but if they play it out from this position, they're in a decent spot. As we see, Quality is engaging, Valkyrie in on Milio here, and it looks like he's going to be able to land enough, but not enough damage. Just Cherry and Alternative are backing up their boy, but I don't think they realize that Zohair might be in the area as he's sitting there sweeping the brush, and right now, Cherry cannot walk into her bot side jungle at all.
Yeah, and I mean, blue side's definitely doing a good job of getting the objective first, forcing the red team out, especially a team that is not favored in the team fight in the 5v5. Really good job there, securing that first strike.
100%.
2K gold lead already ballooned in 9 minutes.
That is not what you want to see, but what you do want to see right now is your Udyr already having that Leandri's complete before that 10 minutes, right? He is also up, I believe, 20 farm. Looking at the individual gold lead, he's up almost 1K by himself on this Lilia. Right? If Cherry doesn't find a way back into this, I think it's going to be really tough, and Zohair's going to run away with this one.
And, you know, the saving grace of red side, right, is you do have an Ornn. The ornaments will come out eventually, but how long can you make this game last into a comp that really wants to play into the mid to late anyways? It'll be interesting to see if they're able to salvage this game, because right now it's looking pretty dire.
I agree, but they're trying to aggressively trade. They're trying to use the fact, hey, we still have, even though we're down in gold a little bit, we still have some early game advantage.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I mean, really, like we talked about the pick potential coming out of red side, right? So it doesn't matter how much of a gold lead you have if you get picked into like a 1v3, 1v4. Start making this picks, start looking for small but steady advantages. You can call yourself back into any game.
Yeah. Speaking of, seeing a little bit of aggressive trading topside here. Looks like nothing's going to come of it, as the two tanks are willing to just say, hey, we're going to grass trade. We're going to just farm up. We'll be impactful later. as I just still want to go back to this mid lane matchup, right? We were really expecting the Zed to be able to punish this Corki, right? That is what it was drafted for. You took Ignite instead of Flash to try to punish this Corki, but Quality is doing an excellent job of staying composed and just picking up on the mistakes that Alternative and Cherry are making here.
Yeah, I mean, it really comes back to that level 1, right? Peel's getting caught out. Cherry kind of has to make the decision that, oh, maybe my red side isn't mine for this level 1. Nothing you can do about it now, but might be kicking yourself. But like we said, plenty of opportunities for red side to make some picks, get back to this game. Zed, one item, opted to skip boots, so might be looking for a kill here on Corki.
The Shojin Rush. I'm not actually. That's not something I normally see. I guess he's kind of going more for that like tank buster build potentially. He's not going for that lethality build because maybe he only sees the value of it on Corki. I usually don't see this for Zeds, but he's still trading aggressively, using the fact he's probably going to be having to get in and auto use his abilities. But now we see an aggressive ulti here from Alternative, but he does not realize that Helper is hanging out and he's going to absolutely kill, but maybe not as the Ignite goes out, but it's not enough damage as Cherry is actually burning Ghost here. Trying to make sure that Zohair and Helper cannot get on her. But we see an aggressive Sleepy Lullaby here as it lands on Helper. And with the Ashe ult, it goes wide as Helper does a great job flashing out. And the Dredge line's going to go back to tower. Ends up being that nobody's dies. But we see Cherry's in a really not good... Or Cherry's in a great spot here as she's able to catch out Quality with the help of Peels' Ram. And right now, what looked like it was going to be a loss on the side of Alternative ended up being a death for Egonog's mid laner.
It wasn't the cleanest of skirmishes from red side, but just enough to get that kill into Oran's pocket. And, you know, we'll take gold where we can get it, right? Would I like to see it go to Cherry on that Lilia, get some damage under her belt, but we just need gold anywhere right now.
I think anywhere does. Or anywhere works, right? And like you said, we're seeing some aggressive tradings here. We've seen a lot of just objective control from the side of Egonog, right? They were able to pick up that Rift Herald earlier. They've had control over this Dragon Pit. And right now, while we see some wards are set up, they're pinging it out, right? They see Helper with that ward, and they might be able to go for a collapse on this guy as Alternative is looking to bait him out, but I think you win a little bit too early as Helper is going to engage here and Quality's doing a lot of damage, but right now Bay was attacking Helper, using her slowing autos here, and especially with Cherry here, I think Helper might be in a lot of trouble unless that Dredge line comes up in time, but it doesn't as Bay was able to pick up that kill.
Yeah, and able to go into Ashe's pockets, right? You want the Ashe who's already 14 CS up to get ahead in gold, so able to pick up that kill, feeling pretty good, and we're seeing a 2k gold lead kind of dwindle to only 1k now. So you're doing good on the side of red, getting back into the game.
Doing a great job of keeping this game contained, keeping it composed, right? Alternative has done an excellent job of kind of staying where he is, right? Not bleeding any more gold than he needs to. And Cherry's also doing a great job. Even though she's down 30 farm, she was able to pick up 2 kills and 2 assists for herself throughout the course of this game. Has 100% KP. That's what I want for my junglers.
Yep.
But yeah, I think right now that's potentially that lead slipping away. Helper's gotten a little overzealous, maybe on some of his roams, but I think if they keep it composed, it's still going to be tough.
Yeah, and I mean, there's an old sports adage, right? It's not about how you start the game; it's how about you finish. And so if you're red side, right, it doesn't matter how you start as long as you come out with a win. And they're doing everything they can to come back and put themselves in a winning position.
Speaking of a winning position, I want to also highlight the amount of vision control that has been set up for the side of Contingent Orange, right? This kind of like village, or I guess this vision triangle is in a very good spot. And while there are a lot of control wards on the side of Egonog, I think this is going to be a potential contested Chemtech Drake, as both teams are posturing pretty aggressively here.
Yeah, I mean, there is a little bit of opportunity for red to come in, but I mean, look at the control the blue has. It's gonna go their way.
I was surprised that I think Cherry potentially took a recall as we saw them come in a little bit late to that fight, running from base. Maybe it was trying to find a potential. I think maybe she wanted to complete this Leandries, but she didn't realize that Egonog was gonna immediately burst that dragon when she got the chance.
Yeah, but at least you make the decision to not contest it without your jungler, right? Too often times we see teams feel like they need to force the issue anyways when they're at a numbers disadvantage. So just take the loss, give them 1 Drake. It's not the end of the world, and don't compound the issue by losing more members.
100%. Now we see the trade mid tier 1 for bot tier 1 as Baywa is going to be able to pick up a good amount of gold, as I believe she's up on Ruffian right now. It's sitting about a 300 gold lead, but Ruffian's kind of chilled to kind of take a backseat, play that supportive role for his jungler and his mid laner, as they're kind of just stacking this cheddar, stacking these objectives.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. And I think Blue side really happy to take this rift out of the way, right? We know how it works. They were able to secure all 6 grubs, so lots of pushing power in this objective for them.
And I think the person that I want to have those grubs, right? All 6 of those grubs is the money man himself up top, right? Mundo has not gotten punished. He died once, but still, he's not got punished enough to have that himself really put far behind. There's not going to be someone who's going to be able to match him early here. But we see actually Cherry's able to land the swirl seed here as the ulti comes out, but unfortunately it hits the guy who doesn't care about it. And right now, Zohair is getting traded with on the bot side too, as all 5 members of Contingent Orange are in an aggressive position here. As we see Cherry going in with the Ghost, we see the Ramhorn come out, land on Ruffian, but I think they are sitting behind the tower. I think it's going to be very hard to find an angle here, as we see 3 people hit by the charm here. Zeri immediately dies, not Zeri, Lilia dies here. And we see Lilia is getting in. Udyr picks up the kill on her. And now Corky Quality's in a great spot, but Alternative gets in there. He gets 2. That is an absolutely massive shadow. He's able to land so much damage. And right now it's just Quality. And right now the members of Contingent Orange are having to back out, but I think Quality's going to be able to pick it up unless Peels lands the nasty flash. I think right now that ends up being a pretty disastrous trade for the side of Egonog.
Yeah, I mean, it's a 2-for-1 win for red side, right? I was going to say before this fight, I think they're actually overgrouping. You know, blue side wants to contest and do what they want, but red, you need gold. And I was a little bit worried that fight wasn't gonna go their way, open up the map for blue. But instead they're able to trade effectively, trade aggressively, get some gold in their pocket, and still continue to claw their way back into this game.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I usually think if I'm having to force a 5v5 under a tower, especially when it's not like super late in the game, I think it's really hard to fight. But I want to shout out Alternative got so much value coming in with the flank, getting his shadows off, and getting a ton of value just out of hitting all of the members of Egonog with his shadows, and he was able to pick up that double kill at the end of the day. And I think he honestly was the person who saved that team fight.
Yeah, especially getting those 2 kills at the end, right? If they didn't go down, who knows how the fight would have shaped out to be. We see this Rift Arrow drop down in bot, and Zed's the only one down here, so potentially looking at 2 towers being taken for the side of blue.
We might be seeing the end burst there as the Ash Arrow goes wide, as well as the Swirl Seeds. Quality's doing a great job of soaking this pressure, but right now we see Rift Herald's able to get a good amount of value as they're able to take that bot tier 1 as well as get a lot of damage on that tier 2. But right now we see it looks like all 4 members with the Zed coming over to contest this bot side jungle here for the side of Contingent Orange. They're kind of just trying to fight over this vision, but Mundo up top, he's kind of like, hey, I'll hang out by myself and maybe have a tower as a consolation prize.
Yeah, this kind of overgrouping I was talking about, right? Mundo's kind of free to do as he pleases when no one's in front of him, and so Peels has to make his way back up. It seems like we're kind of unsure on the side of Contingent Orange how to approach the rest of this game when being behind in this deficit.
I mean, I think we talk about it. I think they understand the situation too, right? This team for Egonog, it is a ticking time bomb, right? Corky, Seraphine, Mundo, they're going to get so much value the longer this game goes. And when you've drafted a Zed, when you've drafted an Ashe, you have to be very cautious to make sure it doesn't go to these late game fights, because realistically, if it becomes an even 5v5, I think it's super hard for Contingent Orange here.
Yeah, and I mean, they get to the objective first, right? But Mundo, I mean, they realistically, Egonog could say, hey, we don't really need to feel pressure to take this dragon. We'll just let Mundo do his thing with 6 grubs on the top side.
I'm surprised that no one is going to match him, as Peels is just... It's like we said, it seems like he's very much overgrouping here, and if they're not able to get a lot of value out of it, Peels is having to walk up the kind of walk of shame, as Mundo's just happy to just keep on doing what he wants. But right now we see Helper's able to land the hook onto Bewa. Bewa gets hit by the charm. That is a dead Ashe on my screen, and now they might get Cherry as a consolation prize here too, as Quality's going in aggressively. He's landing his ult, flashing in, hits the Q. Is it going to be enough damage with the Milio W? I think not. And Alternative's positioning aggressively, maybe looking for the flank on the back, but right now Cherry is able to live barely, and potentially that drags a go. But now we see Alternative is caught out. He did not realize that Helper was going to hit that dredge line, but Alternative does a great job getting away potentially. But the Ignite is not enough, and I think with Zohair on your tail, that guy is going to run you down. And it looks like it's going to be a 3rd Drake picked up here for Egonog.
Yeah, and Egonog is doing a great job of ping-ponging Contingent Esports Orange around the map, right? Mundo, with so much pressure on top side, Peels has to slowly make his way top. Well, while Peels does that, let's go and engage on the free Ashe, on the free Lilia, on the free Zed, and pick up this dragon anyways that we really were okay giving.
Yeah. I want to talk about the misposition there from Peels, having to match the Mundo who had already positioned so far aggressively, gotten that wave shoved in super hard, and the fact that they saw him going up, Helper was able to get that hook on the retreating Ornn when he was away, and Bay was absolutely caught out. And I just think right now Peels needs to be doing a better job of keeping track of where this money man is.
Yeah, and I mean, if your Peels, right, I kind of understand, like, okay, Mundo's top. If I'm here, if I'm grouped, we force the fight, then we
We
can
see
force out the
Zohair
TP.
finds Peels, but Peels is a pretty big man, so I think that nothing's going to end up happening here. But right now, we see the members of Contingent Orange are positioning aggressively around Baron, but what they don't realize is Corki Quality is TPing in from top, and I think right now Mocha might be pinched, but Cherry's doing a great job of buying her support time, as it looks like they're going to be able to walk out. Zohair's trying to get into this pinch, but that control ward makes it hard, as now we see Alternative coming in with TP as well, but the Ashe ult lands on Cherry, or on the Seraphine. That is who you wanted to land on, but while she was able to get the ult off, I believe, on all 5 members, Alternative is getting a lot of damage here, but Cherry is also getting involved as she's able to find the Corki, and I think Corki drops. All 5 members of Contingent Orange are so low, and right now it's just up to Zohair and the Moneyman, but Moneyman is here. He is here. Maybe he's able to keep this fight going, but right now it looks like he's being kited. This Lily is fast, but Mundo, he's going to flash in and he's going to be able to pick up Mocha, and I think right now we're going to see if he can continue to trade, but it looks like he's fighting with Cherry over the Scuttle Crab. As on the top side, we see Zohair and Peels are fighting it up, but now Cherry gets potentially caught out. Oh, the Swirl Seed lands, but we see Valka trying to chase her, but Cherry is so fast, and right now I think this is a potential stalemate, as I don't think either team wants to go for this kill.
Yeah, I mean, the fight was so long, right? If either team dies there, the stagnated timers leaves open a potential Baron take. So both teams willing to kind of let the other one go and say, hey, we'll see you next time. Really long extended fight, and was looking a little sloppy from the side of Ego Nog, able to turn it around kind of with their gold, right? Udyr doing massive damage while being so tanky, and then Dr. Mundo on the backside of that fight, TPing in late, but being able to pick up a kill as well.
Yeah. I mean, I honestly think the way that team fight ended up going, the way it kind of didn't go the way Ego Nog wanted, was that Ashe Arrow was able to sneak behind and land on the Seraphine, right? Even though she was able to get that ulti off, and I believe it hit all 5 members, that's pretty sick, but I think she was able to just get comboed, and we weren't able to have those shields, those heals, and that damage from that side. It's now we see another arrow go out, but Corki does a great job of using his tank as a body block, and right now I think that's TP's behind, but if Cherry's able to land the Q, she doesn't, so he's not going to get put to sleep, and it looks like nothing's going to end up happening from it. But right now, actually, Contingent Orange are positioning kind of aggressively around this Baron.
Yeah, it gives them an opportunity to force out the opposing side, get some vision on this Baron side. But we see how much their red side is actually lit up by the side of Ego Nog. We know exactly that Cherry's not taking the Baron, right? We're not under threat, so let's just let them do their thing while Ruffian gets some gold in the bot lane.
Ruffian using the fact that Seraphine can take that teleport, right? Trying to get her that bot wave in a really good spot. It wasn't able to go all the way into the wave, but it looks like Ruffian maybe is positioning. I think he's going to back off now. He knows he's a Seraphine. He doesn't want to be in a lane by himself usually, as Peels is walking over. But now we see Zohair gets to engage on Mocha, but Mocha's pretty quick with the messy kick, and he's able to walk it out just fine.
Yeah, and Ruffian kind of a little scared, right? We didn't know where the members were. The Ashe ult, if they weren't aware that it was actually down, but it could be very scary. Seraphine's not very fast champion, right? Didn't want to burn that flash, so just plays it safe, and that's exactly what you need to do from Ego Nog, right? You're already ahead. The worst thing you could do is throw, because you're trying to overforce the issue.
Speaking of overforcing here, Valka gets a really good trade onto Alternative here. While Alternative is still built a pretty good tank buster build, I think it's still at the end of the day Zed. So Mundo is going to be able to potentially threaten this tower here, as Alternative's on the recall. But on the other side, we see the members of Contingent Orange are positioning, trying to get some value out of that mid tower and maybe try to take it down.
And you made an excellent point before we got into this game, that if Mundo gets ahead, who's supposed to match him? You know, and right now Mundo's been able to do what he pleases, because Ornn can't match him, Zed can't match him. So who do you send to the side lane? It might have to be the Million Ashe. With the Ashe, you at least have the slow, can kite him out, put some damage into him with that upgraded Bork, and we'll see if they can adapt and make that happen.
Yeah. Right now we've talked about it. This story of this whole game has been contention over this jungle, and unfortunately Gromp is the hero as he's able to take it, but now Helper gets caught out by the Ornn, and we see potentially the sleep not going out, as we see Quality is not getting attacked on the side, but Cherry is trying to get in aggressively here, but she's getting kited out. And even with the Milio W, I think right now your positioning is not the best spot, as that Mountain Soul is probably going to be going over to Ego Nog, as all members of Contingent Orange are backing out here.
Yeah, and we're at that 25-minute mark. There's two items on pretty much everybody on the side of Ego Nog, and it's
Wait a
really, really
minute.
hard for them to chip down. So looks like we're the desperation start this Baron.
I think
No.
it would normally work, but Ego Nog has done an excellent job of making sure that that Baron is lit up like a birthday cake, right? There is no way that you're getting through all of that vision here. But right now, they're
Ooh.
kind of just threatening him out here as Baywa's getting the extended range from the Milio W, and we see a TP coming in from the back as Helper's able to land the hook onto Zed. Zed is in the backline here, but we see so much damage coming out from Ruffian here. And right now, we see the members of Contingent Orange are chunked, but they're not able to pick up any kills there. As now, we didn't talk about it, but Valka is attacking and absolutely abusing bot lane right now.
Yeah, and I mean, Egonogs just have been playing the side wave that much better than Contingent Esports Orange. Mundo has been a
And
nuisance
speaking
on
of
the
getting
side.
aggressive here, Helper with the excellent flash hook onto Baywa. And right now, Cherry is having to be on the retreat, and that is the hook you need, right? This Mundo is absorbing so much pressure, causing so many people to look over at him, pan their camera, and I think Baywa wasn't expecting that flash hook from Nautilus.
Yeah, and I mean, going back to that ping-ponging idea, right? Mundo's gonna
Oh.
say, "Hey, I'm gonna run it down," as we see
And
Zohair
speaking of run it
engage.
down, Helper is hitting so many hooks here as Cherry is the one who gets caught out here. Ruffian is able to get these shields off, get this damage off. But right now, we see Valka's able to pick up this kill solo on Mocha. Milio is all on his own. And right now, I think Egonog is in a great position to just take this Baron away.
Yeah, Helper's a little bit low, right? But we will have the Seraphine W coming through. And how do you approach if you're Contingent Esports Orange, right? You have an Ornn and you have a Zed. I'm not sure how they can really do anything. Maybe instead of approaching for the objective, you just look for the fight. Look for a pick on some of these squishies on the side of Egonog.
And I mean, right now, Cherry is trying to get in position, but she's not in a good spot. She's not healthy enough. And Valka's just
Very,
doing a
very
good job.
low.
She's just running at her. Right, and I think right now Valka is having nobody stop him here. As three members, he's absorbing three, but
Ooh.
maybe he's taking a little bit too much damage here. But that ulti doesn't land because of the passive, and Quirky flashes in and gets the aggressive trade onto Cherry. As they took the Baron, and they're going to be taking the game here, as they're able to get Baywa down as well. And now it looks like Peels, he doesn't have anybody to back him up, and Zohair is able to get that kill onto the Ornn. Never mind, it's Mr. Mundo himself. And right now, the other members, we see Mocha's having to retreat, and Alternative able to get that back off, but I think that mid tower is going to be gone as a consolation for it.
Yeah, I mean, we're probably looking at an inhibitor take for the side of Egonog, and they've played this map. They played the macros so well.
Yes, they did.
Ping-ponging Contingent around the map.
Oh, and a very
Mundo-
aggressive flash there onto Mocha, but Mocha's potentially able to walk it out as Zohair has a lot of damage, but it's not enough potentially, as the Phoenix Stance ultimate isn't enough to get the final kill. But that's very aggressive there, and on the side, Milio didn't have to burn any flash or any sums himself, but we see two inhibitors drop for the side of Contingent.
Yeah, and the two inhibitors that you want, right? Going to be pushing in that bottom side, while Elder Dragon is going to be the next objective, and so gives the opportunity for Egonog to walk into that side, set up vision, set up blinds, and really just do what they want on that side of the map. So let's see if they can close it out relatively cleanly.
I think so. And right now, honestly, you are very happy to send Valka up to that top lane, right? We've said it. We've said it once. We'll say it again. This guy is not going to have someone who's going to be able to match him here. And I think when you have that supporting minion waves from bot lane, from mid lane, it's going to be really hard. And the other members can honestly just position to choke out the vision from Contingent and potentially take that Elder and take this game home.
Yep. Ornaments coming out, right? Oh,
Speaking of aggressive trading here, Cherry is having to use her ulti defensively as Zohair is happy to take that trade. So they're able to get the stun off, but we see all members. Oh, and we see a massive hook lane on Alternative, but Milio does a great job of stopping the damage from coming in. But Baywa, the ultimate goes wide. And it looks like right now we see very aggressive posturing here from the side of Egonog as Valka has found his way onto this tower. And Peels is going in, trying to make a desperation play here. We see Cherry pop the Ghost. She's trying to get a lot of damage here with her Qs, but it doesn't look like it's going to be enough, as right now they have so much healing. They have so much takiness with that Mountain Soul, with the Seri. But right now, we see Peels gets the Goat off. Cherry is trying to get this damage in.
wow.
And that's a ton of damage, but it's not enough as Seraphine is able to pick up that double kill. And right now, Alternative's not able to pick up that kill on Helper on the side. I think it's not going to be enough, but right now, Baywa is their only hope. She has not been touched yet, but I don't think you have enough damage in the world to get through this team. As Quality goes in, he's able to land the Q and able to land the autos, and I think that is probably going to be curtains for the side of Contingent Orange here.
Yeah, really, really well played for Egonog. It played out basically as we expected, right? Scaling comp that gets ahead, mid to late, it's theirs.
Yeah. I mean, we talked about it, right? The win con there for Contingent Orange was to be able to get ahead early and be able to snowball this lead, right? They wanted the kills on the Zed. They wanted Lilia to be able to get involved to be able to shred these tanks in that later stage. But we honestly we talked about it a bunch, but right, that level one was absolutely disastrous for Contingent Orange. Egonog did a great job of positioning aggressively and looking to punish with the fact with that honestly slight cheese, but it's good cheese, right? It's the good kind, and it ended up being exactly what they needed to give them that buffer that they needed to get to late game.
Yep, it's that strategic cheese, right? Making the
Mhm.
hamburger a little bit better, making it a cheeseburger.
Mhm.
But yeah, I mean, and then once again, outside of cheese, so to speak, I mean, the macro game was just so well executed for Ingo. They got the
100.
advantage and then ping ponged around the map and basically did what they wanted, especially into a comp that we talked about it isn't that easy to execute, and so really well played by Egonog.
Mhm. 100%. I think that Mundo was able to get so much value out of the side lane push, right? We talked about Ornn was not able to match him. Zed's not going to be able to match him. And we saw a lot of overgrouping from the side of Contingent Orange, right? They're trying to make something happen, trying to force a play. And while Valka was able to get those kills, I think honestly the four members of Egonog that weren't involved there, they did a great job of kind of baiting him in, right? Giving him a little false sense of hope, right? That they could maybe make a play. Just buying time for Mr. Moneyman to get the job done. And I mean, honestly, great work from all five members of that team.
Yeah, I mean, we saw what contingent wanted to do with their comp, especially in that skirmish on top side, that tower dive, getting the ultimate, the Ash ultimate on Seraphine, taking a winning fight, but it wasn't able to be replicated, and I think it just comes down to it was really hard team fight, team comp to pull off, and we'll see how they adjust for game two.
Yeah, completely agree. And I think right now I'm looking for picks. I honestly think I've talked about it a bunch. I think Seraphine is a champ that gets so much value, and it's really hard to shut her down. You're going to get value out of that champ regardless. You like even if you aren't able to carry from the damage side, you're able to provide that shielding, healing, and that ultimate. We saw 5-man ultis, we saw 3-man ultis from the side of Ruffian. He was able to get so much value. And I think also another thing I want to talk about is that Corki Pariah, right? We've seen alternative on the Corki in the past, and we saw that it was the B1 pick for the side of Egonog. I think that is something that could potentially be picked for Contingent Orange if they choose to go with red or blue. We don't know yet. Oh, actually, it looks like we do know, as Contingent Orange is actually going to stay on the red side.
All right. Well, we'll see how they adjust for the red side draft. I think the Zed might have came out, like you said, maybe a little bit too early.
Mhm.
We saw the kind of group up and charge approach come out from Egonog, really effective in making that team fight really hard to execute for Contingent Origin Orange. I'd like to kind of go back to basics, maybe pick a 4-1 5v5 comp and see how that goes rather than this skirmish heavy pick oriented style.
And while I like the spice for seeing Ignite teleport on the Zed. I think he was not able to get as much value out of it as he wanted. I think this guy is a very good Zed player, so maybe he knows his limits on the champ. And we saw some good value out of those fights, right? That fight under top tier 1. He was able to get that double kill, get a lot of damage with his shurikens, but if he's not able to absolutely blow the game open with his Zed pick, I think it needs to either come out later in the game or potentially not at all.
Yeah, and I mean, let's make it easy for ourselves, right? And pick a comp that can go toe to toe with the side of Ego Nog and be a little bit easier to execute, especially in a do or die situation here in game two.
Mhm. Yeah, honestly, we were right now. Egonog was not the favorite coming into the series, right? Contingent Orange has done an excellent job of kind of maintaining a high status in this league, right? They were seeded second, not just 2 weeks ago, and I think right now they are on this verge of if they do not win these 2 games in a row, they are eliminated, and Egonog's going to be able to move up and make it up all the way to semis here in this playoffs.
Yeah, sorry, I'm having some issue on the back end trying to join the lobby here.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but yeah, I mean, it's do or die. It's put up or go home for Continue Esport Orange, especially for a team that you were telling me that had been as high as second in the standings, and an unfortunate loss made them tumble down to fourth. Some some pressure on them to live up to that high expectation that they probably set for themselves.
I honestly think another thing that wasn't noted, we talked about the fact that Ornn got picked on that R4, right?
Hmm.
That gave Valka the opportunity to get that really nice counter pick with the Mundo. I think when you're going back to red here, I think honestly, I'm just a big fan of it always going for that top R5 counter, right? You
Hmm.
need that hard counter to shut down potentially what Valka is going to go for because he's going to potentially go for. I know he will even blind Mundo, but you need something that's going to be able to answer that on side. Valka is kind of willing to just be on the island and get the job done for himself. So I think that is one of the alterations I want from the draft for the side of Contingent Orange. But maybe they have some other plans here and they want to go with that support ban. But I think that's kind of their way back into this.
Yeah, I mean, we picked the Zed, right, thinking it would be good into the quirky, and it didn't really work out that way.
Mhm.
We blind picked the Ornn, banned two counters in the Garen and the York, but we leave up the Dr. Mundo, and then we R5 Milio, which it was a lane that we thought we should be winning, but instead kind of got ran over a little bit in the early game, and kind of everything that could have went wrong for Contingent Esport Orange. So kind of like step back, reset. It's a brand new game, best of one. Let's just go out and win it.
Mhm. Completely agree. And I mean, we honestly talked about you've talked about that bot lane matchup, right? And we were
Hmm.
expecting the Nautilus to potentially get shut down by that Milio counter pick, but I was honestly seeing so much value that Helper was able to get in these fights, right? That dredge line was hitting all the time, and it was hitting the value targets every single time. It was absolutely amazing. It was great, right? And I think honestly, he was able to get so much value and also just impact the rest of the map too, right? We saw that play in the top side jungle. Cherry was getting absolutely choked out. Helper was just there, right? And
Hmm.
Ruffian's he's happy to just be by himself, be that Seraphine, get that value because she's not getting poked out herself. So I think they'll probably on the side of Egonog look to play another weak side bot lane and let Helper get involved everywhere else.
Yeah, and I mean, I know Nautilus Q isn't the death sentence. That's the thresh, but that's what it felt like, right? Because as soon as that Q landed, you had Seraphine empowered E coming over, or an Udyr stun, or a whole host of CC options. Kind of follow that up and make sure those targets died. And so, um, definitely a playmaking kind of masterclass from Helper, being able to affect all parts of the map, and not to take away from you know what Ego Nog did. They set the tone from level one on, and they played to that tone. And they play effectively, and so if you're them, you play with confidence. You go out and say, "We'll just do that game too, and we'll close out the series nice and easy."
Mm-hmm. Completely agree, Brant. And I'm just trying to look back to see if they're going to try to find a way to ban out some of these threatening picks from the side of Egonog, right? But what we see now is it looks like we're going to be finally hopping into draft, right? The teams went for a bathroom break, which is fair, right? Their playoffs are on the line, right? Give them a little bit of time, make sure they're in the right headspace. So they want to try to come back and get this bread, right? Get this series win under their
Yeah.
belt, and it's got to start with one game at a time, like you said.
Yeah, and a similar draft so far. Lee Sin taken away by Contingent Orange. The Senna that was banned on the third ban instead comes out first with that Nasus, and we see is it a salty redback? Is that what we're seeing right now?
It might be salty run back, but I mean, hey, right now Ego Nog came out with a purpose, right? They banned all three of the same thing, and we're seeing a salty run back, like you talked about. It is the exact same bans from the side of Contingent Orange. Maybe they didn't think it was a draft issue. Maybe they just gotta rearrange who gets what pick, right? And I think that could be the angle, but I'm honestly expecting Corky to come out again, be one for the side of Ego here.
If it's not Corky, maybe expect the Seraphine, right? Because it
Mm-hmm.
could have risen in priority. We talk about these best of metas that kind of develop. The Seraphine looked really strong with that ultimate, but instead it's an Ashe takeaway
That
from
did not.
Contingent Orange into the pocket of Ego Nog.
I'm actually kind of surprised to see that. I was kind of expecting a Corky to come out. Maybe Egonog was like, we're not going to be able to get away with that again. But like we talked about, right? Ashe has a lot of value as still being like kind of that like weak side 80 carry. She's going to get value and to support her team. And when you see that the carry players that are on the side of Ego, right? We saw the jungle get involved. We saw the mid lane. They did a great job. And I think Ruffian is willing to just be here. I'm going to back up this team. But we see Lucian actually in response for the side of Orange.
I played a lot of bot lane in my day. I think Lucian struggles into the Ashe, right? The W spam, the slows as you're trying to um, leave that quick trading pattern that you have in lane. And so it's interesting to see the Lucian come out. You expect the Nami pairing to come out as well. Otherwise, it might be taken away from Ego Nog. But we'll see if they have maybe like a Millie or some other thing that they favor.
And I know we talked about it early or a little bit earlier with the potential for a flex, but Lucian has the opportunity to still go mid, even with those nerfs a while back to his Q and getting those compensation buffs to his passive, where he's getting buffed by an enchanter. It's a possibility, but right now they're pairing it with Nudir. So we're just seeing denial on denial right here as they're getting rid of Zohair's champion.
Yeah, but that leaves the Corki up for Egonog to take, so it's a takeaway. Oh,
Oh
with
my
the
gosh.
Lilia as well. It's
Yeah,
very, very
are
interesting.
they trading drafts at this point? Right, we see Lilia now from the side of Zohair. I guess it was the counter pick that we saw from Cherry into Zohair's Udyr. So we're just seeing that counter pick flip flopped on its head, right? Zohair's like, hey, you just didn't play it as good as I can, and that's kind of what they're feeling right now.
I mean, dare I say that Seraphine gets picked here? It would be a really good takeaway. The Ashe Seraphine is a lane that's pretty powerful. Matches up kind of nicely with the Lucian, but instead it comes out with the Nami.
They're just going with the tried and true, right? The Tide Caller. I think it's a good combo for a reason, right? It just synergizes so well. And I think they're gonna just try to go for overall lane dominance, but I don't know if I'm gonna be able to get a lot of overall lane dominance when I'm playing into an Ashe of all champions.
Yeah, it's kind of hard, right? That trading pattern we talked about. It's really hard for the Lucian to execute when Ashe kind of slows and keeps him from running away after pressing his buttons. But I will say, Contingent Orange, their team fight looks a little bit better than it did game one. While
Mhm.
Egonog is kind of opting into what Contingent played, right? You see like a lot of skirmishing, the Quirky Lilia maybe potentially as well with the Ashe pick
Mhm.
potential in the ultimate.
Yeah, but on the side of Contingent Orange, they're looking to ban out some of the stuff that was it could be a really good pairing with that Ashe, right? The follow up CC from the Nautilus, I'm expecting a lot of Enchanter or not Enchanter, pardon, engage tanks getting banned out. But for the side of Egonog, I think they could also just look to ban out some of those strong counterpick top laners and just to give Valga an opportunity to play some of his stuff that he likes, right? Maybe he wants to play that Mundo, as we see Camille, like I said, being a really good response into it. So. We'll
Yeah,
see.
I mean, it'll be definitely interesting. I don't expect the R4 top to come out again for Contingent Orange, instead going to the R5 slot. But then again, we might be surprised, but definitely good call. Banning up the strong top laners, enabling your top to kind of pick safe blind on blue side is
Mhm.
definitely the way to go for Ego Nog. And the Leona Ben coming out for Contingent Orange. So they're trying their best to make sure that this Lucian Nami can function as effectively as possible within the landing phase.
Mhm. 100%. And I mean, we also talk about just the order of draft, right? The Corki was picked B1 last draft, and right now it opens up the opportunity for a really nice R4 mid pick here, right? You still get counter pick into the Corki, and while you do have to potentially deal with the counter pick support, I think you're in a really good spot here, just like tempo wise for the side of Contingent Orange in this draft.
Yeah, and I mean, if you look at UNI, they actually kind of still have really good poke. Ash W, Corky, Lilia, the Swirl Seed. So it'll be interesting to see how they round out this comp. We see the Lysandra coming out for Contingent
Ooh.
Orange.
I actually really like that pick. It hasn't had a lot of favor in the past. I think right now 14, 17, she got those really big buffs, so she's doing really good in the
Hmm.
mid lane right now. I think it is a good option to shut down this Corki. If you go level 6, you have Udyr in the area, that champion is going to die if the quality does not position aggressively here. I think it's solid. But right now,
Yeah,
I'm honestly expecting for the side of Egonog, I could see Mundo coming back. Right, you ban those really two counters, Gwen, Camille, and I think it's one of Valka's favorites. But we're gonna see Soraka actually coming out as that B4.
interesting. I was expecting the Mundo or potentially even the Orin as a takeaway, right? We know Contingent Orange likes to play it. Going back to that Lysandra pick though, paired with the Udyr, it makes Lilia's job really, really hard, right? Lilia wants to get that move speed, be a nuisance, do a lot of damage, but what can you do when you just get Lysandra ulted, right?
Mhm.
You're probably not in like uh opting into a QSS, and I don't know if Soraka really wants to rush Mikhail, so it'll be interesting to see how they approach that. And then the Orange takeaway does come through for
You
Egonog.
called it perfectly, right? We were talking about Ornn just being that really solid blind top laner, but I do think it has the opportunity to get counterpicked here. While the Camille and Gwen did get taken away in ban phase, I think if Peels is able to go into his back pocket, right? I know Peels is an Ornn, I believe, main, if not one trick. I think he probably knows what the counters are to it. So we're gonna
I
see if that comes
mean,
out
the Mundo
here.
looked pretty good last game,
And
so
Mundo, yeah, Mundo look good here. We're actually seeing
wow,
Yone as a response potentially. Oh, there it is. It's locked in. And
wow.
actually, not a bad pick. You get a lot of tank bust from that side, and he's kind of your big tank buster as well as maybe Udyr a little bit on the side.
Yeah, lots of pressure for Contingent Orange's side lanes to do well in the early game, right? Get that push, let the Udyr kind of run around the map. Lily is an answer to the Udyr in a vacuum, but if she's getting barreled down on these sides, then could be trouble like we saw in game one, except for reverse for Ego this time.
Yeah, I wanted to harp back on the Soraka pick, right? I think honestly that pick actually has so much value, especially into Lissandra and Yone specifically, right? Lissandra, she's wanting to come in with her E, right? And you know what that does? That leaves a perfect indicator for Soraka to lay down her silence and make sure that Lissandra's not able to get her combo off. Right, you also see Yone with his E. He's gonna have someone. He's gonna have to go right back to a specific spot every single time. Soraka's gonna be able to lay down these silences, buy her team a lot of time, and potentially catch out these solo laners if they're not being careful.
Yeah, it might be a cat and mouse game to keep track of with that Lissandra you're talking about. Kind of maybe bait out the silence and then enable your team to do what they want. So it'll be interesting to see. But I gotta ask, who do you got? You see the draft in front of you. What are you
I
thinking?
mean, I am. I before I get into that, I'll get there. But I'm honestly like, I'm just surprised that it seemed like Egonog kind of took on the draft that Contingent Orange had game one. Right, you see the Ash come out, that Lilia come out, and the Ornn. These are all three of the champs. I guess they're the priority picks. And while I think there is a lot of value in this straight team fight, I kind of want to see Valka usually on these split pushers. Right, I want to see him be able to get something done on side. But for Contingent Orange, you're kind of going more for that skirmishy comp. We saw it earlier, right, with the Zed in game one, with the Yone, Lissandra. I don't know. I mean, I think right now it's gonna come down a lot to the solo laners, like we said in game one. But right now, I think the ball is kind of in the park of Contingent Orange to get something done with this Lissandra and Yone.
So who do you got? You didn't answer the
I know.
question.
Wait, I went all over the place. I think, I'm kind of hoping for a banger, right? I
Yeah.
love my boys over at Egonog, New Origins represent, but I don't know, man. That Yone, you know, actually no. I think the Soraka has so much value. I'm gonna go with Egonog here.
See, I'm actually gonna go Contingent Orange. Is gonna have a bounce back game. I think the early game is definitely not what they wanted, right? That level one kind of fiasco. If they have a more solid early game potentially and some more team fight tools in this comp, could look pretty strong, right? You have two pushing sides potentially, hopefully, right? A stable mid lane, and really like if you're the Corki, if you ever blow your sums, you're really really scared, right? The Lissandra ult, the Udyr stun, maybe potentially Yone coming down after a push, and so, but I think Contingent Orange can clutch it up. We could go to a full 3-game series.
Hey, that's what I've always liked to see, right? I think maybe I have caster curse, but every game I have played, it seems like it has only gone to 2 games. So maybe I'm hoping that breaks today. Kind of not, right? I'd love Egonog to be able to maybe take it home, but also like I love some League of Legends, right? I'd love to just see a banger series between all these players.
Yeah, and I think with that, we are going to take a short break and look forward to seeing you on the Rift for game 2.
It's gonna be game time.
I thought I had it figured out. Believed in us, we were meant to be, no doubt. A teenage love, everybody else could see the way we were, living in a fantasy. When I kiss her, I don't know where we going. I don't know at all. I don't know
Welcome back, everybody, to what is hopefully going to be a banger series, right? As we saw, Egonog was able to take that game 1, and right now we're seeing a little bit of a mirrored image right now, as we see the members of Egonog are looking to contest, but right now they do not see that the Contingent Orange is here, but that is a 4-man bubble, as actually might be the saving play right now. That is huge from Mocha. I know we talk about these early hype plays, but that absolutely kept this game alive here, as right now, they're using the fact that they got that bubble, and they're getting a lot of vision here on the top side of Egonog.
Yeah, the bubble specifically on the Ashe is the lifesaver there. Otherwise, you have to burn sums with that slow. So able to kind of walk out scot-free, just take that back, walk in with your minions. Feels pretty nice.
Mm-hmm. And right now, speaking of really nice, if I'm the jungler right now, I'm so thankful that my team is at least walking with me to make sure that Cherry isn't up to any shenanigans here on this blue, right? But we do see now that Zohair is spotted on this clear. It looks like both junglers are going to be clearing top down. Never mind, I'm a liar, as looks like the Lily is walking down to her already warded Raptors here.
Yeah, it's going to be kind of a standard Lilia start. Expect her to skip the red, go into Krugs, and then path up. You kind of min-max your camp timings that way. Kind of get ahead in terms of how fast they respawn. But pretty standard across the board. I was looking for any crazy runes or sums or anything, but just standard.
No TP Ignite this time for alternative.
Talk about a 180, by the way. Zed, TP Ignite, into Lissandra. Kind of
You're playing the alternative game. Maybe they put him on a leash this game too, but we'll have to see. I think he still had some value, and I think you get a lot of value out of this Lissandra in this game. If you find those targets, if you find the Corki, you find the Ashe, even find the Lilia, right? Shut her down. I think it's really good.
Yeah, we were talking about, like, outside of Valka on the Ornn, it's a really, really squishy comp, right? And so if you're ever out of position and you get Lissandra ulted, it's pretty much instant death with the amount of damage that can come out from Contingent Esports Orange.
100%. And I know technically this is going aside from the game, but I want to talk about the fact in bot lane you're looking at 4 18-20 skins going up against each other, right? You see the money bags top here, and we're seeing right now it looks like the side of Egonog they're feeling a little bit better as they're able to get this wave pushed in.
Yeah, I mean, Yon building up a nice lead for himself in this top lane, but a lot of that minion is going to be absorbed by the Ornn, and you're okay if you go down early as the tank player, right? There's no pressure on you to get ahead. Like, you're just going to show up for team fights and do your job. So pressure is on the Yon and Contingent Esports to make sure that this pick is able to thrive in these situations.
But Yon is actually using the fact he has a little bit of early push here. He's able to spot out Zohair on his Gromp, right? That's a good timing. But now we see, didn't cut away, but we see Bay was able to get a really aggressive trade on Helper there.
Yeah, and I mean, Helper just not respecting the bubble that came out. I was able to catch a glimpse, just got caught by the bubble, didn't flash it, and it's Lucian Nami, baby. You're dying.
I mean, that's the strength of this comp, right? If he gets enchanted. But speaking of getting caught out here, we see three flashes all at once there. Equality does a great job of not saving any time, but now Zohair is in a really aggressive position here, and he's able to land that swirl seed on alternative, and if alternative doesn't have that E, he's going to drop as Lily is able to pick up that kill.
And the immediate punish for having no flash feels pretty bad as alternative. You're thinking you're making a really good play. All of a sudden it's kind of bites you in the butt. Feels bad, but good on Zohair for being in the right place at the right time. I think they're coming off denying those Raptors as well. So building up a CS lead and getting a kill feels really good.
Heck yeah, right? And we were talking, I was honestly going to mention earlier, I thought Alternative was doing a great job of putting pressure onto this Corki, right? And I think if they're able to get a little bit of timing better, right? They're able to get that flash earlier, or Quality is caught sleeping, that is a dead Corki, right? But it's honestly, props to him. Honestly, we also, I didn't note it here, but Corki does have the cleanse as well. So maybe if he did get rooted there, he would have been able to cleanse it out. But honestly, great response there.
Lissandra did not get any special treatment for her ult. You can just cleanse it. The damage still goes through, obviously, but that CC disappears almost in an instant. And so good pickup by Quality. The sacrifices, though, that macro game, that ping pong that we saw, might take a hit because you don't have that TP available. So we'll have to keep an eye on that and see how they manage to adapt not having that TP.
And one thing I want to note out that I've been seeing at the start of this game is kind of the inverse of the top roles here, as Peels is doing a great job of applying a lot of pressure to this Ornn, right? Even though there is this big stacked wave, Valka's going to be able to catch up in experience, right? We see potentially what's going to be about an 8 CS lead here, 10 CS lead. And if Young's able to continue to build this lead up over time, I think it's going to be good. As this Peel's guy's getting a lot of stuff done, and he's able to give his team on the bot side time to do this dragon.
Yeah, and I mean they're spot out by the scuttle vision, right? But not in a position to contest. So Peel is able to save that TP just in case the fight did break out. And so far so good for Contingent Esports. Way better than last game in terms of this early game.
Absolutely, and now we see Cherry is walking into the bot side jungle. And I was honestly expecting a loop up onto Corki, but Corki, he's actually going into the other red side jungle here. But now we're seeing some aggressive trading here bot side as we get the double silence there, and Lucian is rooted, but I don't think they have enough follow-up damage here. Actually, Ruffian is able to get the slow off, and Mocha is in a really bad spot, forced out to flash, but Ruffian's gonna get a good flash out, and he's able to get the kill on Nami, and I think Lucian's gonna fall right behind. And that is absolutely, I want to shout it out, that Soraka was able to get so much value there.
Yeah, so much value, especially with that silence, right? Getting that root. Bewa didn't have the flash by using it aggressive earlier for that kill onto the Soraka, and so being able to answer back for Ego Nog, really, really good. And we talked about it, right? When you pick the Lucian Nami, you're doing so to kind of put your statement on that lane, and I think they might have overstayed their hand going from the Drake into bot side and getting picked off. Unfortunate play for Contingent Esports Orange.
Yeah, and I'm just kind of hovering over this top side, right? Looking at this aggressive trading rate. Zohair's kind of hanging out, making sure Peels doesn't get up to any shenanigans. But it looks like Valko's happy to kind of just get his item done. He doesn't have to back, right? And I forgot he's a little privileged like that. But on the other side, the fact that Zohair showed Cherry's going to be able to pick up some Raptors for herself.
Yeah, and I think picking up the early grubs, taking away those first 3 is actually pretty big for the side of Yugonog, because you do have a really, really strong split pusher in the Yone for Contingent Esports, and so not going to be able to pick up, not going to be able to pick up 4, right? And so it'll be interesting.
Speaking of a pickup here, Lissandra's aggressively trading in here, but Corki's able to Valkyrie out. But right now, I don't think you have enough to get out of this one. As wait a minute, the bubble goes wide, so it ends up being not as clean as they wanted, but Cherry's still able to pick up the kill at the end of the day.
Yeah, and Cherry, it's fine that the Udyr gets the kill there, but you'd like to see it go to alternative, right? To kind of put a more lead in that mid lane that is so important for you. You want to unlock the Lissandra to make those roaming plays with Cherry on that Udyr. Use the ult aggressively, kind of put the Lilia down, so to speak, in terms of tempo. But we'll see if they're able to do that with Cherry picking up that kill.
100%. And I mean, right now we also got to talk about the downside of taking cleanse, right? That wave was not in a good spot for Corki to die, right? I think he loses almost 1.5 waves there. That's a lot of experience. And right now, Alternative might be trying to use the fact that he's going to have that experience lead on Corki for a while to his advantage here.
Yeah, and props to Quality for building up that CS advantage, still able to have a CS lead despite losing all that farm. So, at the end of the day, not too bad for your lane, right? Lissandra picking the assist, you're about even now. But still feels kind of bad that you ended up dying.
Yeah. And right now, Quality's saying, hey, that's not going to get me down. He's actually going to try to get some Raptors and actually leaving one up, right? As a jungler, I hate that. That's the worst thing ever, right? But I think Cherry's going to be able to find it soon, make sure she's going to clear camp. Oh, yep. Okay. Oh, as it ends up dying there. But now we see it. I missed it again. We see that Lucian's actually getting aggressive trade on Ashe here.
So Bewa able to take advantage of the fact that Mocha is just so clean with these bubbles. I was able to watch that fight in its entirety, and the bubble disregard from Ruffian and Helper is what killing him in this lane. And so really well played from the Lucian Nami side.
Yeah, and I don't know why I keep getting distracted by chickens up topside as I keep missing these Lucian kills. Hey, I'm almost in this next
jungler brain.
Jungle brain, I guess. I'm just like, what the heck? Someone's taking a camp. It'll be good as we've seen a lot of action here as both AD carries are sitting at 2-1 coming.
Yeah, but it's a lot slower of a pace than game 1, right? I think on the side of Contingent Esports, you don't want to overforce your hand. You built up a little bit of a lead, but it's win or go home, right? And for blue side, you're playing a scaling comp. You have the Corki, you have the Ornn, and so you're okay taking these fights and these this map momentum slow. So a lot more different than game 1 when you had your fill of everything happening all at once.
Completely agree. And you want to talk about, we talked about differences, but talking about similarities here as we see Udyr and Nami are positioning very aggressively here as Alternative is able to flash W in, and we see a flash coming in from Cherry as well. And right now we see it all lands, and I think right now Corki's not able to, there's not much he's going to be able to do when you have 3 stuns coming right on your face.
Quality, saving the flash, good call, right? He had an opportunity there, a little bit of a window to flash away. Probably still goes down in the end, so save it, use it for another day. But they're really doing their part on the side of Contingent Esport Orange to make sure that Alternative gets ahead, gets tempo in this lane. Hopefully can unlock them soon.
Yeah. 100%. We saw a little bit of a contestation over that bot side try brush, right? As we see Cherry is using the fact that version is set up light, but now we see almost just again, but Baywa is able to get the ulti out right now, and Helper's forced to flash out, but we see Ash gets the ulti off, but it unfortunately misses. But right now, Mocha's getting the Tide Collar placed on their face. And right now we see Alternative's in a good spot here. He's not able to get the damage off as the Q misses, but the Lucian W is able to land. And right now, the passive from Lissandra is going to be able to do so much damage. And Bay was able to get that kill, and that is a very clean dive from the side of Contingent Orange. Dude,
And
what
it's
is
just like we
going on?
talked
I'm missing
about,
everything.
right?
Yeah.
We talked about Alternative being unlocked to make these plays, and so Lucian Nami racing out to a lead with that double kill in the bot lane, and picking up the Drake as well. Traded for 6 scrubs, but I think you're okay with that when you're Contingent Esports, right? There's not really a strong split pusher, and if you contest this Rift Herald, the grubs value kind of goes down, in my opinion. So we'll see if they make sure that Ego Naga isn't able to pick up that objective.
Yeah, for sure. And we're seeing some aggressive trading here as Alternative is going to be able to get the ulti out, and I don't think Quality realized the damage here, but it looks like Alternative doesn't have any more fuel in the tank, as Quality is going to have to flash and cleanse to get out with his life there, but barely.
Yeah, and you're seeing how this lane can quickly get scary for Corki, right? You are playing an ADC, and Lissandra loves to just burst you down, and so good on Quality for being able to get out, but it comes at the cost of both his summoner spells, so we'll need to be seen if they're able to take advantage of the timers.
And right now, we talk about kind of like that here. We talked about Lissandra, but right now, this Lucian, he's in an excellent spot to potentially carry this game. The only thing really holding him back is potentially his lack of range. But when you have a Nami backing you up, I think that range doesn't end up being too bad of a sight, especially when you have the calling to just absolutely lay down the damage. And with that Essence Reaver spike, I think he's going to be able to farm up, get so much value here.
Yeah, and I mean, it's really the Yone and the Lucian racing out to leads, right? We see 82 CS for the Orange as compared to 114 for Peels on that carry champion. And so look to see those two players, put their all out, right? This is win or go home. And so you have this lead, make sure you can use it effectively.
Yeah, and right now the really only gold lead that we see on the side of Ego Nog is Lilia, so it is a bit of a turnaround, but now cutting down bot, Lucian is having to get that ulti. He gets the E, Culling is able to potentially do enough damage here, as we see the Soraka ulti makes it so she barely lives, and right now I know Contingent Orange are going rats. We almost got away with it, we almost got it done, but I think right now both members of Ego Nog are going to have to back, and I think that tower's going to be in shambles right now.
And we talked about how the side lane pressure could be bad for Zohair, right? Unfortunately, bot lane not able to rotate up. They're trying to take down this tower. Should be successful in doing so. But really good stuff from the bot lane that, kind of
Arrow.
Was wide. Yeah, I saw it coming. But for a bot lane that kind of had their number just a game ago.
Yeah, and right now we're just seeing like such, honestly, a really good turnaround here from the side of Contingent Orange's bot lane, right? Baywa is able to get so much value out of this solution, but honestly, you talked about it earlier, the value that Mocha has been getting from these bubbles, right? Even cutting back to level 1, right? Getting the 4-man bubble and just getting getting this value from that ability to put this Ashe and the Soraka behind, it's honestly shout out to them.
Yeah, and I mean, now you have a Yone down here that will feast on these carries with the level advantage that he has accrued, but shout out to Mocha, especially with that, very undervalued but very important Oblivion Orb first item for the Soraka lane. Kind of takes away that annoying sustain that you so often see.
And right now, we're talking about the aggressive trading of objectives here. But speaking of aggressive trading, Baywa is messing up Velka right now, forcing out the flash. But it looks like Baywa might have enough damage here with the culling to finish it off. And Velka flashes out, and it's not going to be enough. As right now, that top tower is looking mighty juicy for Baywa, as all members of Contingent Orange are in an aggressive spot here. But right now, Peels is fighting for his life under this tier 1 bot. And it looks like he's going to be zoned out as Zohair is getting aggressive in, forcing the Fate sealed out. And it ends up potentially being a 1-for-1 as the mid tower is also being contested by Contingent Orange.
Yeah, unfortunate that you have to use the ult to get out here, but you're going to take probably 3 towers in return. So worth for Peels.
Ego Nog, they need to be falling back, right? They need to be getting in a spot to defend this tower, right? As we see, Lissandra might be getting caught out, but Ornn actually getting the aggressive TP out, but Lissandra has that mobility with her E, but Zohair, the Swirl Seed goes wide, but she's going to be flashing in, getting that sleep coming off, and right now, Alternative does a great job of flashing away, getting a little bit of buying space, and I think that flash actually saved their life there.
Yeah, good flash. Also, really good ulti to disengage from Mocha, being at the right place at the right time, actually stopping the back that was about to go through. Saves their mid laner's life. And then we see the power of the slows when it comes to the
Oh, but
Lilia.
speaking of getting involved here, Alternative is in a very good spot right now, and it looks like Helper is caught out. Never mind, that is Ruffian. We didn't see it there, but Ruffian is dying here, and now we see the aggressive movement here from the side of Contingent Orange as they're going to be getting a flash in from Cherry, as they are looking at Helper as their target, but Helper's going to be able to flash out. Valka has nobody to follow him back up, and Bewa is unstoppable at this point. And over on the top side, we see that Peels is trying to aggressively trade with Zohair, but Zohair is not in a good position here, as he has nobody behind him.
Yeah, Zohair might just look for the execute. Be interesting to see what they decide to do. Maybe just the wave instead.
Oh,
just
but
pick
the
up some
wave-
gold.
Away from Nami, makes it so he's not going to be able to execute here. He's just only buying time, but he gives Bewa the opportunity to get that kill on, honestly, the only member of Egonog who was ahead.
Yeah, I mean, this is a complete 180 from the Contingent Esports we saw just last game, right? The early game went so poorly with that level 1 invade, and now you're seeing what they could do when, you know, there's no cheese coming through from the side of Ego Nog, or maybe that's what they were thinking anyways. Just run it back, you know, we play our game, we'll win.
Absolutely. And I mean, we talk about it, right? It is overall dominance in all three lanes, right? Yone's up 50 CS. Lysandra is able to get so much value out of this champ, right? Getting these gank setups for her Udyr and Nami. And Lucian sitting at 7-1. He is feeling happy right now. He has so much ability to carry this game, right? He does so much damage with the IE already completed, not even 20 minutes in. This is going to be really hard for Egonog to get back into this one.
Yeah, and I mean, the CC layering from Contingent Esports has been really, really good to watch. The Lysandra ult into a Nami bubble, into a, you know, Udyr stun. It's been really, really good as we see Peels maybe looking for an engage.
Yeah, but that Soraka E says no siree. So they're happy to just be sitting back, right? And Ash is just going to try to catch this wave under tower, but Lysandra's pinged out, so no shenanigans there. But right now, they are absolutely not allowed into their bot side jungle here.
Yeah, and I mean, Baron coming up, we'll probably see the shift of focus for Contingent Esports towards that side, and it'll be really, really hard for...
Oh, but they're positioning very aggressively here. It might be looking like they want a tower dive, but the wave is cleared too fast. But the culling comes out. There's a lot of damage, but the silence. Very good
Great
value
silence.
there from the Soraka. And Lucian is very chunked out in the back, but Zohair is getting a lot of value. He's able to land the three-man sleep, and it's getting so much value. They're getting such an excellent turnaround as Ornn's able to pick up the double kill, as Corky's able to pick up the shutdown on Udyr. This is absolutely not what you want to see if you're Contingent Oranges. That is a great turnaround from Ego.
And we talked about it last game when Ego got ahead. We want to say, don't force, right? The game's in our hands, but you just don't make a mistake, we'll win. And unfortunately, Contingent didn't get the memo. They made a mistake and were immediately punished. And great turnaround from Ego Nog.
100%. And I think Bewa, like you said, was just getting a little antsy, right? You use your ulti super early in the fight, and if Soraka is just going to be able to lay down that silence, you lose so much value. And I think the rest of the team was not in a great position to follow that up, right? There's that turret there that's going to be stopping that really hard engage that Contingent Orange wanted to do, and Egonog just did a great job of playing it back, responding, and winning that fight super one-sidedly.
Yeah, I mean, Zohair with a great sleep, and then Valka getting the Ornn ults over the top. You know, we talked about how, as the tank, you know, you're okay giving up farm, maybe giving up some tempo, because your job is to show up and do work, and that's exactly what he did, you know. Really, really good stuff from Egonog, you know. Still down by about 1,000, but definitely able to close that gold gap relatively quickly.
And I'm starting to wonder if that fight went the way it was. I don't believe Yone was involved in that fight at all, as he's still sitting there with 0 deaths. He wasn't the one who ended up passing in that fight, but I think you've got to be really cautious here. I think while you were very far ahead, you still need to get a lot of value out of your 5v5, right? Because on the side of Ego, in a controlled fight there, they're not sitting ducks, right? They have the Soraka to back them up, Ashe and Corky for Peel, and we saw the ulti value from the Lilia and Ornn there as well. You got to be so cautious here.
And I don't know if this is what they're doing on purpose or not, but objective badness can be kind of misleading, right? So we just saw them come off, but you could kind of bait a team that you've closed the gold gap
Oh,
because they
but
still have the objectives.
speaking of bait, they see Velka might be potentially caught out of position here as Mocha's using the Tide Collar. We're forcing out the Ornn Flash, and right now I think Baywa's going to get a lot of damage, but still, it's an Ornn at the end of the day, and he's building all armor, so they aren't able to pierce through him this time.
Yeah, just the flash expended from Valka though still has that ult to be a menace in the team fights, and you know, some key cooldowns expended from Baywa and Mocha. So this Baron take might not be as clean cut as they want it to be.
Oh, but they're willing to go for it, right? As they're choosing to rush this down. I think that the members of Ego Nog know that it's happening, right? They're pinging it out, and I think Contingent
get
Orange
out.
realizes, yeah, we gotta leave. Oh, but that Ash arrow actually almost landing onto Baywa.
Yeah,
And he would have potentially been a sitting duck, and that would have been an absolute massive hit if it went off.
If I'm not Lucian, I don't care. That Ash arrow is somehow hitting me, right? Baywa able to escape by the skin of his teeth, and kind of an ill-advised Baron take because now you're losing a lot of tempo on the map. You just use both Lucian and Nami ult, and you were probably never going to get that objective unless Ego Nog was totally asleep. As speaking of sleep,
yeah, Ornn or the Cherry is getting caught out here, and there is nobody to back her up as that sleep gets so much value. And I think right now that is going to be, I believe Hextech. Yes, Hextech going over to Ego Nog. They're doing a great job of fighting back in this game.
Yep, denying the soul and taking out the jungler in the process. So no threat of a Baron take from the side of
we see the E
Contingent
come out
Esports.
from Peels as Valka is wailing on him top, but actually very good response here from the side of Contingent Orange. They're trying to make sure that this dragon doesn't go away, but we see the Culling come out and the silence from Helper. We see it's a repeat of that last fight, and we see that the members of Contingent Orange are potentially pinched here as Valka's going to be able to get so much value, landing his ulti on 2, but the other members are here. Zohair is getting involved. Alternative is buying time, but we see a 2-man Fate Sealed land onto Helper, but there's so much value, so much healing from the Soraka ultimate there, as right now all the members of Contingent are in the retreat, and that flash, it is not enough as Corki's able to pick up a double kill.
Yeah, now you have a decision to make though. You just wiped and you're on the side of the Baron, so obviously you want to take it, but it might be an Udyr sneak into a Soul for Contingent Esports, so let's see what they decide to do. Do they want to try and contest? We're kind of low now.
Oh, but speaking of contest, I think that the
trying to
members
do
of Ego
both.
Nog, they potentially know that it's happening as we see the Ash arrow come out and it hits Cherry, so they know, and I don't think Cherry has enough damage to burst it super fast. She's gonna potentially.
But they don't get the
Oh
Baron
no,
now.
she's going for it. Wait, they chose to get off Baron there actually.
They try to make it so
First
Soraka
and quality. I think he
Oh,
Valkyried
no.
in right into Cherry's face, and Cherry's able to land the stun. What happened there from the side of Ego Nog?
No, Ego Nog just tried to bite off more than they could chew. They wanted to contest both objectives, left Lily and Soraka to take the Baron on their own, which they couldn't do. They back off and they lose off on Soul. That's so devastating.
Wait, that's absolutely. I thought they were going to be able to go for the Baron, finish it off, and then try to contest the Drake, but they choose to do the exact opposite, right? As they get a little overzealous, right? Quality, I think, accidentally Valkyried in, and Udyr will say, "I'm going to take that as a chance to go in." He's going to get that stun, and speaking of going in, Zohair is caught out. They did the classic bush cheese, and I think right now that makes it so the Baron is going to be 100% over to the side.
You gotta feel for Ego Nog, right? Like they did so well, pulling themselves back into this game, and then a couple of ill-advised decisions. It's looking kind of rough.
Yeah, trying to buy some time with the Ornn Horn, but I just don't think it's going to be enough as they're trying to aggressively ping that bot wave here as it is pushed in, so they're going to lose some value, but still that is not where you want to be. As
And you know, the sequence of events kind of starts back to that fight that Ego Nog actually won. It came as a result because Ego Nog had no approach for the initial dragon, right? So they decided to force it on mid. Instead of taking the dragon, Ego Nog, sorry, I have my teams mixed up, but Ego Nog
whoop.
takes the fight to mid lane, gives up the Drake, takes the fight and wins it, starts Baron, then pulls off. And you know, so we talk about these cross map plays. Props on Contingent Esports, you know, for forcing a response both times, forcing a response mid and then forcing a response on Drake. You know, that mid fight was ill advised and they ended up losing it, but they're playing the map relatively well despite you know, kind of losing the tempo in that mid game.
Yeah, I mean, Contingent Orange, they were in the driver's seat, right? And they went for that really, I guess, unfortunate team fight mid. And it gave Ego Nog the chance to kind of get back into it, it felt like. But just an unfortunate, I think, series of events, a little bit of miscommunication amongst the team, right? Maybe it's because it is their first week kind of competing as a full team, but now we see a little bit of Peels, you are not supposed to be there, man, as he's having to fade sealed out, and it is not enough as Peels drops. But right now we see some trading on the other side, but it looks like Quality's caught out by Cherry, and it is not enough damage. That cleanse is not going to get the job done as the Culling is able to finish it off. But right now Zohair is caught out. Baywa is able to do damage here, but Cherry, she's going to tank. And it looks like Zohair is going to be able to get out of this one, as we see it ends up being a 1-for-1.
Yeah, I mean, Peels gets caught out, which is unfortunate, but actually kind of baits the team into taking a losing trade.
Oh,
Quality
speaking
going
of
down.
losing trade, Alternative is doing a lot of damage to the side of Valka here, but I don't think Alternative has enough damage. It ends up being a trade, as I think the Orin Horn was able to finish it off, as the auto was what did it in for Valka there, and that's a little bit of a banger skirmish there.
Yeah, I mean, it's good old-fashioned draw, right? You know, unfortunately, you lose some minions if you're the side of Nog, but I think you'll take it if you're the Orin. The Orin hasn't had the most exciting game, right? He just showed up to fights. He's kind of got bullied in the lane, but has a little bit of excitement there.
Yeah. I mean, I do think he hasn't gotten involved, but I do think the times that he is there with his team, he has gotten a ton of value, right? We talk about that Orn Horn that was able to land 2, let Zohair get that 3-man sleep, right? This Orn is getting value, and I was expecting him to get punished a little bit harder on this side, right? Lysandra is a champ that has burst, but she doesn't have a whole lot of tank damage at the end of the day. Right now, Yone is the champ that you want to be seeing burst down this Orn, but it ends up being a trade at the end of the day for that.
Yeah, and it's getting kind of hard for the Yone to do that, right? You have an upgraded Thornmail coming on the side of Orn, as well as that Randuin's, and so it's gonna be hard for Yone to get damage over the top of Orn. So it's actually kind of interesting that Orn ended up matching the Lysandra there with no MR except for that null magic. So maybe some messed up lane assignments, but we'll see if they can correct those.
Potentially, but speaking of, we see now the members of Contingent Orange are positioning aggressively around this tier 2 bot lane. 4 members here, but honestly, Quality's got to be a little cautious here as the turret's going to fall. But we're not seeing any real response on the other side of the lanes, right? Orn is kind of sitting back, waiting for Peels to show up top side, and it ends up being just a tier 2 for nothing at the end of the day.
And I think Valka was trying to stay in a position to TP. Give him credit, he's not quote-unquote overgrouping, but if you're not able to exceed any kind of pressure, it's kind of the same thing. And it seems like this Orn that wants to team fight, if it's not given the opportunity, kind of loses value. Both teams going against it, able to ping-pong the opposing side around the map, and maybe it's a pick that we just don't see at all game 3 if it gets to that point.
Yeah, I 100% agree. And I mean, honestly, I want to just highlight again the amount of just damage and pure pain that Lucian is going to be able to exert, right? He's up 70 farm. He's up 6 kills on this Ashe, right? And while you have some value, you get that secondary 80 carry with Corki. I think if Lucian doesn't get shut down, potentially get silenced on his culling a couple more times here, I think that it's going to be hard for Ego. But these fights, they have been going back and forth, so it could still be a banger at the end of the day.
Yeah, and Lilia, you know, to her credit, has accrued some CS advantage on the Udyr, brought the gold back even, and so there's potential for picks to come out as we see a Swirl Seed hit Lysandra. Doesn't amount to anything, but if you're the side of Egonog, you're kind of reduced to making those picks happen or punishing an overextended, overaggressive fight from Contingent Esports. But it looks like Orange kind
about
of
Mr. Elder is coming up soon, right? They're positioning very aggressively here.
Yeah, and the onus is, you know, what does
Oh, and
blue side
speaking of
respond
aggressive,
with?
it looks like Cherry's going to be able to find an angle onto Quality here. But right now we see the Fate Sealed. Ruffian does a good jump flashing, but he has nobody to follow up as they're able to pick up Ruffian early. And right now we see Quality's in a good spot, but that is actually a very good flash blast code, but I don't think it's enough as Lysandra gets so much value there out of her ultimate. And I think right now that ends up being a 3-for-0, and they are looking at that top tower as the consolation prize. But that does leave the Elder up open, and but it looks like maybe Zohair, if he's trying to buy enough time, no, he's not going to go for it.
Has to back, right? Otherwise, it's definitely a done game.
And while you say definitely, it might still be GG, right? You have all 5 members up on the side of Contingent Orange, and I think right now it's kind of hard for Lily and Orange to get involved here. But still, if Zohair's potentially able, they did. No, there's 2 minions up still, unfortunately, but Valka's getting burst down here as we're able to see a good flash sleep there, but I don't think it's going to be enough as Lucian was the one that
I don't know if they can hit.
And right now, it looks like it's going to be GG for the side of Egonog as Contingent Orange makes it a series.
Yeah. Second, there we go. Yeah, I mean,
Wow.
props to Contingent Orange for recentering themselves and kind of saying, hey, game one wasn't how we play. We're gonna play the way we do game two, and pulls out a pretty decisive victory, albeit on some maybe poor decision making from Ego Nog.
Yeah, I mean, right now, Ego Nog had the chance to take that game away, right? We saw that there was the big slip up from that mid team fight, right? That was Nog's chance to get back into this, and there was just I think so much miscommunication there on the Baron. Are we going for the Drake? And it ended up just being the Corki. He got caught out of position, and then they ended up losing both. And Contingent Orange wasn't going to let that opportunity slip away again, as they were able to
Yeah, I think
cleanly take.
the Baron's right there, and it makes sense to take it, but you're on soul point, right? And so I think you just gotta give it up, move directly to the Drake, keep the UDU from starting that objective, and instead you end up in a split fight, a split decision, and kind of did you in.
Yeah. But I mean, for the side of Ego Nog, right? They're still in this series, right? I think you got to be able to bounce back from that potential miscommunication, right? Find the angle to, hey, you still had the lead at a point. You were able to take it back. You won game one very convincingly. I think you need to go back to what you made worked game one, right? I think Valka needs to be on a champ that can exert some side lane pressure, right? While he did have some good value on the Ornn, I think if you're going to be able to get in this game, you got to be able to make some plays around your solo lanes here, right? And right now we're seeing a little bit of a change up as maybe they are going to try to go for that aggressive play as we see Egonog is actually going to take red this time, maybe giving Valka that R5 that we were talking about.
Yeah, and I mean it's a change up, right? But we saw similar drafts both games. They kind of swapped which team was playing them. But I see two picks that kind of stand out to me as maybe a potential bait, and that's the Ash and the Ornn.
Hmm.
Paired together has not been a good pairing, and I don't think there's as much value as these teams see it. I guess.
Yeah. I do not think, at least with how we've seen it, the Ash should be early picked in these series, right? Maybe it is just they are just like, hey, we just didn't play the lane right. Maybe it does have value, but I think Ash just it hasn't shown enough success in game one and game two, right? You were talking about those nerfs earlier. I think maybe that's coming back to bite them, but I'm honestly like I'm expecting to see Ruffian is a big fan of Misfortune, potentially looking at the Jhin. I just think playing these like really strong meta blind 80 carries, maybe giving Ruffian the chance to make a name for himself, right? Play around him a little bit could be the angle that Egonog is going for. I also think we talk about the value rate. Lilia also hasn't gotten as much value as we were hoping, right? Even in these comps where you think they'd be able to pop off, I think Lilia is a strong pick, but the Udyr actually, the blinded champ is getting a lot more value here.
Yeah, and I mean it's definitely there was a big debate a couple weeks ago about how skillful is Udyr, and I think it's a little bit easier to pilot than the Lilia just because it's a lot beefier, right? It does kind of the same thing, puts out a lot of AoE damage, but you have a point and click stun, and you have a lot of beef behind it, and so maybe the Lilia goes the wayside as well. Um, what I really want to see both these teams do is just pick 5v5 team fight comps and
Mhm.
go at it and really fight for these objectives.
I agree. I guess it's kind of a question, right? Do you still think this Corki has value in these games, right? We saw a great turnaround from the side of Contingent Orange, right? They went for a more standard counter to it, right? They just overloaded that lane, made sure that that Corki was sweating, right? Even with the cleanse, he's not able to get out when you have three people layering on you constantly. Do you think that is a pick that we're gonna see prioed here?
Yeah, good pivot from Contingent. Going, Zed wasn't for us. We're gonna go with Lissandra, point and click ulti, lots of damage, lots of AoE, and if you're Ego Nog, maybe you don't value it as much, knowing that Lissandra is in the back pocket of Contingent, and I don't think Contingent, knowing how volatile the Corki could be, yeah, it could be really good and put out damage, but it could also be really squishy and kind of hard to pilot. I don't think they'll value it on the side of blue.
Hmm. Oh, and yeah, completely agree. I say we talked about Ash was the first pick, Corki was a first pick. I'm trying to think. Maybe Udyr is something that both teams are trying to contest, right? We did see value out of it, like we mentioned before. And it could give a little bit more leeway to the solo laners as well as the laners, to give them potentially a matchup that they want to go with, right? Udyr in the counter matchup has not gotten punished enough, so maybe that is the value that Contingent Orange is going to be looking for.
Yeah, and I mean, if you're ego, you have to be in the back of mind, like, the Udyr was so good for us, and it was so good for them, so maybe we just ban it because we're on red side this go around. It was interesting that they opted into it, right? You lose some agency in that not being able to first pick. But maybe it's just, we want red side because we want to set up our solo lanes for success.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll have to see what they end up doing. But the Udyr is really highly contested, right? We could see the return of Mundo. Maybe Ornn stays on everyone's radar, despite it not really looking that great in the eyes of these observers. So there's lots of stuff that can happen here. We'll just have to see when we get into this draft. So I'm excited. I mean, this it's win or go home for both these teams now.
Yes, it is.
It's best of one to the utmost extent, and so you got to lay it on the line because this is your last time to do so. You either move on and continue to make that push, from these plans, or you go home and are a little sad about it.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And yeah, hopping into draft. I know we talked about potentially Udyr being one of those bands that could be coming out. I'm just wondering what are some bands that would be potentially dropped on from both sides here. I think honestly all 6 bands got a ton of value. Zohair is known for his Lee Sin as we're seeing it on the other side, but like champs like Belveth, Ziggs, Rel, they're gonna be contested here. And I think what is the champ you're gonna make room for if you're banning Udyr?
Um, I don't know, right? Because it's probably coming out from Egonog. And so, I mean, what do you decide to ban? You've banned the Belveth. Maybe that's something that Contingent could go for a B1. You've been banning the Senna. I mean, it's been Senna, Belveth, Nasus, right?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe you throw out the Nasus
Right.
ban. Maybe you get it on the flip. You don't think they'll B1 it. But I don't know. I don't know if this team plays Nasus, right? So there's a lot of unknowns going into this game 3.
Yeah, I think that Nasus is a champ that the reason it's being banned is a lot of teams are not comfortable playing into it, right? The teams that are taking their time and playing this Nasus mid, right, seeing the value of it, a lot of the strength of it comes from how do you counter it, right? So I think that could be an angle that is something they want to drop, but right now Quality has to have a really good answer into it if they're going to let it through.
Yeah, just waiting for this draft to get up to speed here. I'm not quite sure what's the issue, but we'll get into it momentarily.
Mm-hmm.
And we talk about like best of metas, right? We've seen Lilia both games. We've seen Udyr both games. We saw Ashe, Ornn. These contested picks in the jungle. I would like to maybe see again or banned out potentially if you're not comfortable taking the counter into the Udyr. But you know Ego has an advantage, I think, because they played 2 games of blue. Now they're switching over to red. We don't know what the red side draft prep is, um,
Mm-hmm.
as well as
Absolutely.
Contingent could spice it up and take something totally crazy on the B1.
Mm-hmm. And now, yeah, we talked about it, right? Udyr ended up coming out as a ban, but actually, what we're seeing is it's a ban on the side of Contingent Red. But the champ that got through, right, Nasus, ends up being the first pick for the side of Contingent here. And right now, that is actually like we were talking about it, right? There's gonna be a lot of threat with this champ. I think he has a lot of pressure still top, but right now, Nasus mid is kind of the thing that we're really looking out for right now.
Sorry, I did not know draft was even going on. I didn't know
You're
the
all
bans were
good. You're
through.
all good. Yeah,
But we
yeah.
see this Nasus B1 that if there's an answer, it's kind of scary taking your solo
Ooh.
laner like that, but could be a flex. We see team fight to its fullest degree in the Misfortune realm.
That's absolutely what I wanted to see from the side of Ego Nug, right? Ruffian on this misfortune has been a monster. And right now, the Rel, we talked about it. That was the ban that was dropped for that Udyr ban. And they're immediately going to take it, right? That I think is Helper's best champ. It is the one they have the most success on in solo queue. And I think they are willing to take this really strong blind lane and hopefully run away with it.
Yeah, and I mean, really, really strong laning coming out with the Misfortune Rel, right? You over the top of a stun, knock up, all this sorts of things. But Ezreal, safe pick into it, makes it really, really hard to punish.
Mm-hmm. It is. He's a very safe pick, but also like you got to be able to pilot him pretty well. And I mean, we are in
True.
Warden League, right? These are the top of our players here. So I think if anybody could do it, it could be Baywa, right? We saw his Lucian, he went crazy. I think Ezreal's not going to be a problem for him.
Yeah, and I mean, realistically, right? These are 2 potential flexes Contingent has taken for themselves. With the Leona, I think it's Ezreal bot.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, a really, really good pairing, but you never know, right? Could be Ezreal mid, could be Nasus mid for all we know. So, setting themselves up for a really interesting draft is the side of Contingent. I expect just more team fight coming out from Ego Nog.
I think you just gotta all in on that team fight, like you said, right? Nasus is gonna have a lot of threat in these team fights, but one of the things that does do well, if you can kite him out, right? Maybe giving their mid laner in these jungles a little bit of options to stop him, slow him down, giving his misfortune a little bit of space could be the way. But actually, we're seeing a blind
Wow.
Yorick from the side of Valka. We were talking about maybe it's only a solo queue champ, but he's willing to take it on this R3 here.
And maybe it's the answer into Nasus, right? Like if you're ego, you're kind of calling the bluff and saying contingent, you're playing it top, and I'm going to take the Yorick into it. So we'll have to see, how that ends up being potentially flexed. Maybe the Nasus doesn't like Yorick. I'm not too familiar with the matchup. I could see how it could get kind of scary though if you get caught in the Yorick wall.
I think while he could get caught in the York wall here, I do think they honestly are just going to go the route of they're going to ban the big counters into Yorick. I think right now the priority on Nasus is his ability to bully mid lane. Right, he's able to go like 4 points into his E, read through the wave, and just get a lot of value. Just still hitting your Q on the or on the cannon, right? Get your +12 and be happy. I think he has so much priority in these, and right now I'm very surprised to see Yorick as the response here.
Yeah, we'll have to see, right? Like you said, covering your bases, kind of calling the bluff that we think Nasus is going top, but we're going to make sure it does because we're going to ban away your counters. So maybe Contingent's forced to flex that Nasus mid, in which case, we probably see a jungle pick coming up from the side of Ego Nog. So really, really good Lily Ben from Contingent.
Absolutely. You want to hold the flex here, technically. Actually, you want to hold the flex here and make sure Nasus, we see where he's going to go, right? You have jungle, give your Yorick the opportunity and your mid lane the opportunity to see, hey, where is this Nasus going to go, right? What pick do I need to go? Because if you pick something
Wow.
bad and potentially have to meet that Nasus, but we're seeing now that Wukong's going to come out as a response.
Yeah, this is the 4-1 comp, right? You want York to be a menace on the side lanes. We saw game one how much damage that could be with that Dr. Mundo coming out from Ego Nog. And so kind of a variation. And now we see the York, but three really team fight oriented champs in the Wukong realm and misfortune. So if the Ezreal does get locked down, he's gonna die in a hurry.
Mm-hmm. Completely agree, right? We said they're gonna go all in on that team fight comp, but we're seeing a good result. Ooh, and that is
Okay.
actually pretty good at stopping down that Wukong in the rel there as Talia comes out as I guess, but then maybe it is jungle actually. We could still count that Cherry has shown games on it jungle. And maybe they're still trying to hold the flex all the way to the end of this game.
Yeah, we have to think about, several patches ago, the Talia nerfs in the jungle and then subsequent nerfs to the AP. So it loses a little bit of value in my eyes, but it is comfort for these players. So maybe we'll see it still stay in jungle, but really interested to see how they tie in this. And it's going back to the Corki.
And
For
I guess it
Contingent, right?
is Nasus top. I was doubting it. I thought it was gonna go surefire mid, but we see Corki as the response here, and I guess the finishing blow.
Yeah, and like you said, Talia in the jungle, right? That has to. Well, I mean, they could get crazy. They could
Uh,
go Nasus jungle, Corky top, all that kind of crazy stuff. I don't think that'll be the case, but we'll have to see.
Hey, maybe they want to be spicy on their potential I guess game time, right? But we're seeing Oriana actually as the response. Just on like we said, going all in on this team fight, right? You have a lot of ball delivery systems, right? With the Rel, with the Wukong. I think it's a pretty good pick, right? It's not going to get bullied out by this Corki, and I think mid lane we're going to see a little less action, but these champs late game are going to be absolute problems.
From the Nasus, I mean, maybe the Nasus goes mid and the Corky gets a jail out of free from the York wall in his Valkyrie, right? So maybe that's a potential lane swap. We'll see. I don't know if the pilots will be any different, but maybe we'll still see the Nasus kind of shoving the Oriana over and over and do his thing. So really interested to see. I'm not a huge fan of the Talia pickup in jungle, especially through the rounds of nerfs, but when piloted well, can put Wukong down relatively early and with ease. So we'll have to see how it's done.
Absolutely. And I mean, we're gonna have to really see how these matchups end up playing out, right? Is this Nasus B1 the answer for them, right? I honestly thought I didn't expect it to be top, but expected it to be mid. But I honestly think both teams have drafted pretty different from the last two games. But I guess we're gonna have to see how that ends up playing out. As I think we're gonna go on break here. Give us a little bit of time, and we'll be back in just a second after spectator delay.
Halfway out,
just trying to lose you now. Yeah, it was an illusion now. Yeah, I just wanna see you out. So give it up. Leaving all your texts on red with the games you left now. Give it up. You're sick of all the things you said getting in my head now. So I don't wanna know. I don't wanna know where you go. I don't wanna know. Yeah, it was an illusion now. You're leaving all the doors locked out. Yeah, I don't wanna know. Yeah, I don't wanna know. Two shots with a broken spleen, yeah. I'm back with the mess you leave, yeah. It's hard to stop in me, yeah. So I don't wanna know all the things that you left in my brain, starting all over again, yeah. I only put it away, now you run back in my face, yeah. I'm done with all that you can say, yeah. So leave me alone, 'cause I don't wanna know. I don't wanna know where you go. I don't wanna know. Yeah, it was an illusion now. You're leaving all the doors locked out. Yeah, I don't wanna know. Yeah, I don't wanna know. So I don't wanna know. I don't wanna know where you go. I don't wanna know. So I don't wanna know.
Don't forget about me and all the things I could give to you, baby. But I guess you can't see, making new memories with me. Oh, yeah, I'll be okay. I'll be okay. I'll be okay. Oh, yeah, I'm good either way. I'm good either way. What happened to forever? Now we're not together. I know it's time you probably need a break to see if you went down whatever. Bad and dead together. But baby, know that I'm good either way. What happened to forever? You know, you know, you know. What happened to forever? You know, you know. Don't forget about me and all the things I could give to you, baby. But I guess you can't see, making new memories with me. What happened to forever? Now we're not together. I know it's time you probably need a break to see if you went down whatever, ever, ever, ever. What happened to forever? You know, you know, what happened to forever? You know, you know, you know.
You know, Righteous, I talked about it earlier, right? I haven't had the opportunity yet to cast a 3-game series, and I think of any series, this is a great one to have that caster curse broken, right? As
Yeah.
both teams are fighting for their lives here on
It's
this.
playoffs, baby. This
Yeah,
is what we live to see. I didn't get to ask you before, but who do you got? I mean, we saw the drafts. We already see the
oh,
subs.
you
What's
know,
what's your take?
so I know we joked about it, Jungle, but as a mid laner myself, I always am a big fan. Orianna is one of my favorite picks. It's one of my pocket picks, right? And I think when you have a comp centered around this Wukong, centered around this Rel, I really like an Orianna's chance to pop off here and get some damage. But also, I think we still got to be careful that the Nasus top is, if he gets ahead, I think it's still going to be tough. Oh, it's going to be tough for this team fight comp to get it done.
I'm a firm believer that when you pick the easier to execute comp, you win, and I think both games have been that. I think it's just like we saw the layering CC in game 2, we saw the team fight potential in game 1, and I think that'll carry over. I think Red Side probably wins this game because it's like we're gonna 4-1, York's gonna be annoying, and we're gonna explode people when we hit
Mhm.
R. So I think they'll pull it
Oh.
out, but we'll have to see.
It looks like they caught out the sync. They saw them walk in as Mocha's trying to get that third brush. Every support wants it, right? But looks like Helper's doing a good job of making sure that she can't walk in here. What it looks like, we're seeing some also aggressive trading just all over the map, right? Getting this matchup started spicy.
Yeah, and I think you hit the nail on the head before we loaded in here. You were talking about the matchup to watch is really top, right? Because if the Oric's up behind, he doesn't get to do what he wants to do anymore. He'll lose into the Nasa matchup, right? But similarly, like if the Nasa gets behind, how do you ever match an Oric? So
Mhm.
if I'm a jungler, I'm definitely looking that way. So far, it's only Zohair that'll be popping up for that
Oh,
early potential.
and we saw the Leona E just barely miss onto the Rel there. I actually want to note, Rel did a great job of, if that landed, she was right in range to W the Leona into her tower. And that
Yeah,
could have
I
been
mean,
really bad for Mocha, right?
that's
That
the
could
one
be.
where Mocha's like, I'm so glad that missed because I would
Mhm.
have either had a flash or I'm dead. So,
Mhm.
really, really well played from Helper, being cognizant of that
Yeah.
interaction.
Now, also speaking of some aggressive trading here, as we see the two mid laners are kind of brawling it out, right? Orianna does pretty good on the retreating trades, right? She's able to get her Q off, maybe land a W if it's back on cooldown, but right now
Yeah,
we're
and
seeing.
I was expecting the phase rush to come out from Orianna, just to limit the opportunities for Corki to sit there and auto you over and over, right? Like if you're Ori, you're trying to scale, and so make it so you just can get out of dodge and pick up your minions. But opting for the little bit of a poke damage build for lane, and alternative really feeling it. Almost out of mana here, almost out of health. Probably has to back and burn 2p.
I actually have a not counter argument, but another suggestion for an Orianna. I always like it's kind of picking up favor right now. Is a comet keystone, but you actually take 3 points in your W instead of your Q, right? You do so much damage, and it actually ends up being a break point. But besides that, we see some top lane trading. Now we're actually cutting down to mid. We see that Lance hits on both, but Talia is in a really good spot, and it looks like Helper's probably having to sacrifice himself as Ezreal's able to pick up that first blood.
Yeah, Helper knew they were dead, and so don't burn any summoners. Just kind of take the loss on the chin and
Oh, and speaking of taking
use
a
them
loss on
another
a chin,
day.
quality. Unfortunately, that flash is not able to land. Alternative had the Valkyrie up just in time, and right now that's a flash of Soriana. And if I'm a jungler, I'm looking at her. I'm going, oh, you're in trouble,
And we might see a 2v2 here. Zohair knows that alternative
and maybe a
um,
3v2
really
as
low, but
Leona's also
alternative
positioning
has
aggressively. Oh no,
Alternative
I don't
has
think
the
she
flash.
realized. I don't think they realized that Cherry was right behind us. Cherry's flashing in aggressively, but that W, the shove doesn't go wide. But Alternative is
Oh,
Valkyrieing on the face of Quality. Oh, but the Quality's not able to get that auto up. But not Valka, the Wukong's here. He's not able to pick up two. He's having to flash out, make sure that tower doesn't take his life. And right now, that's a very aggressive trade there from the side of Ego.
yeah, and you see that Zohair kind of was caught in no man's land. They wanted a path towards quality, but quality didn't really make it easy for him. Instead of, pathing towards the tower, trying to get in the river, and Zohair didn't really know how to approach. Ends up being a 1-for-1, salvages the play, and Oriana kind of coming out a little bit ahead in terms of tempo, able to shove that wave in, and, you know, no harm, no foul. Both teams kind of take their wins,
Yep.
walk away, but could have been better.
I think that is fair. I think you still got to be accounting for the fact Corki did get a kill, while Oriana only got an assist there. But right now we see both the champs were able to get that tier off, and right now they're abusing the fact that Alternative, he goes for the very aggressive trade. He did not realize that Helper was in the area. He's gonna have to flash out, but I don't think it's gonna be enough room as Helper's able to layer his AC, able to layer the Lance, able to get the pile drive down. But right now it looks like Oriana not able to get that finisher off, unfortunately. And now we see Zohair's trying to get involved too, but Mocha doing a great job of making sure that her Corki is doing an excellent job of staying alive.
Yeah, and Alternative solo has to back, won't be able to pick up these minions as they get shoved in. Should be a dragon potentially for red side as well. So really good job, utilizing that tempo, unlocking Helper to go make that play, and potentially pick up an
Seeing
objective
some
if they wanna go
aggressive
for it.
posturing here.
Yeah.
From Mocha. I'm very surprised. I think she did a good job of bluffing out the team, but speaking of bluff, we see Zohair getting involved. Awesome combo there as she's able to get the shockwave off on two, and Mocha's forced to flash out, and I think that might be the end of the play, but Zohair is looking to loop around. He does not realize that Mocha has that bush control ward, and right now Ezreal is doing a good job of keeping himself alive, doing a flash, not able to get the combo, not able to land that arcane shift, as he falls to Ruffian, who's able to flash in and get a kill. And I think this is absolutely a disaster as Leona dies too. And Oriana picks up one and gets 2 assists, and that is so good for the side of Ego.
Yeah, blue side tried to salvage a losing play. It ended up shooting themselves more in the foot. Helper, shout out to him or her, because Helper, what they did, knock up the Ezreal, right? Ezreal immediately hits the barrier. What does Helper do? Use the Q. You don't have a shield anymore, buddy. So really, really well played from red side. Ease of execution. If I say it once, I'll say it 1,000 times. You saw the really nice layering. Wukong goes in invisible with the wall on top of him. Oriana comes over the top, and it was easy peasy.
Yeah. I mean, absolutely. That's what you want to be seeing here, right? Mocha, we were talking about it, was positioning very aggressively. And while we thought it was going to end up being a really good bluff, right? Feigning that her team wasn't there, I think they were not expecting the members to collapse and make that play. Really well played from the side of Ego Nog. And it's going to be, see if they're going to be able to make something happen. But we see Helper's doing his roundabouts, right? Just trying to see if he can find something. But speaking of find something, he might run into Mocha here. As he's just, looks like nothing's going to happen as he just places a control ward down to help out his mid laner.
Yep.
Oh, but...
just slow and steady right now, kind of.
Ooh, very aggressive trade there from the side of Contingent Orange. Helper's chunked pretty low, but it doesn't look like there's going to be anything else out of it. But we actually see Zohair is running down. I don't know if they know that the monkey is in the area, if he's going to be able to get involved here, but the stun comes out from Mocha. We see that the arcane shift is out. Zohair is going in with the clone. He has ultimate. I think that is a dead Bewa. They are able to layer the cyclone spin. They're able to layer the bullet time. And I think right now that is not what you want to see from Ezreal. You're playing a little too aggressive.
Yeah, we talked about it before the game loaded in, right? York's going to be in on an island, and everybody else is going to show up and hit R. And so far, that's exactly what we've seen. So much pressure on this bot side of the map. And, really, really effective pressure. They've won out on pretty much every fight.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, we talk about a win, but right now we see a little bit of a trade, finally, as the members of Ego Nog are able to take that Infernal Drake, but Cherry's able to pick up a consolation prize, give her Nasus 3 grubs in his pocket. But now, ooh, I don't think Quality realized that Mocha was in the area too, but there's nobody to pinch her off on the bot side, so Quality's able to just walk away here.
Yep, mid lane, the easiest lane to gank, and also the easiest lane to walk away from.
Oh,
so.
But speaking of gank, it looks like Zohair, he was on the Raptors here, and Mocha found him and is having to take a little bit of damage here, take a little bit of pressure. There's a lot of contention around this mid lane right now.
Yeah, trying to unlock this mid and make it hard for opposing junglers. And so far, red side, back-to-back games, red side's gotten the advantage in terms of unlocking that mid lane. So I'll have to see if the trend continues. Meanwhile, top just kind
Top
of looked
lane,
like
Cherry
we're...
is in a very aggressive spot as she's able to wall, avoiding the fact that there is something there, but Valka's having to flash out. Is Cherry going to be able to land the seismic shove here? She is doing a great job of holding the shove, but it actually misses, but it doesn't matter. That pressure, just holding that ability makes it so that Valka is having to kite around, and Peels is able to pick up that kill and I think get plus 12 for himself.
Yeah, and Cherry kind of playing the Talia like I like to play Blitzcrank, where you just walk at them, threaten the queue, they kind of get scared and just start wiggling around. And if the ability never comes out, the Nasus is just gonna queue you down. So really, really, really well played with that wall.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I also want to talk about the fact that wall was very good, but also just walling right when she got spotted on that ward in that top tri brush. Not giving Valka enough time to react to that play is so well played by the two of them.
Yeah, looking at the game state here, dead even in terms of gold, despite the kill difference going for the favor of red. And
Zohair is trying to get a little bit of trade here. Peels is very low on mana, and it might be enough, as unfortunately it's not. Even with that Armor Shred and Conqueror fully stacked, Peels is able to walk away and say, hey, I'm going to go back with a lot of gold in my pocket.
yeah, he does get to go back with a lot of gold in his pocket, but I think he might have overstayed his hand. Trades out the tower plates for a loss of tempo. He has to walk all the way back to this lane, and so the gold should even out for the York because he eats towers. We all know this, and we'll be able to pick up some plates
Oh,
of his
yeah,
own.
and he doesn't have that TP. You were so right. I think York's going to be able to potentially pick up 3 plates here for himself. Also, with the Wukong doing a great job of potentially not letting this Nasus get back into lane. I think if we're going to be seeing
Yep.
that here.
They're going to be playing between the towers potentially.
Oh,
You
yep.
see?
Zohair is making it so Peels, but Peels is able to get back to his tower. They weren't able to get there in time, but still, that is honestly 2 towers, honestly 2.5 gone for the side of Valka. Valka's feeling pretty happy about himself right now with a lot of gold in his pocket.
Yep. And then, for as much, much of a win that red side has taken on the blue side, or against the blue side down bot, Ezreal kind of building up a nice lead in CS for himself, being able to kind of do what he wants alone in the lane and kind of freeing up this Leona to put pressure on this Ori who, wanted to be unlocked with this lead that she's accrued, but unable to do so. Can't walk in without walking into that Leona pick.
100%. One thing I also want to talk about is just honestly the pathing and like the amount of counter jungling these junglers have been doing, right? We've been seeing Cherry has just been on both in the top side quadrant and the bot side quadrant of Wu's jungle, and we see the exact same thing coming. They are absolutely just not breaking a sweat. They are making sure that they are going to get value out of the fact that they know where these junglers are, and it's just honestly that's what we're seeing at this like upper level play. And speaking of upper level play, Valka's bringing out not Angela, that's my name for her, but it's just the maid.
And we see cool variation from Cherry in terms of the builds from Talia. For so long, Faded Ashes and Leandri's was the play, but I'm just gonna build Burst. Faded Ashes isn't really that good for me anymore, and so the more damage the merrier. And like you said, has been able to dictate the tempo.
She's getting another wall out, but right now the ghouls are doing a great job of blocking the walls, but it doesn't matter as Cherry's able to do so much damage as well with the Nasus absolutely dunking on that Yorick.
Yeah, there we see the power of the Ludens, right? Yorick doesn't really have any defensive components and it just gets insta popped with that Nasus tandem. So really, really well played. And Cherry been able to carve out some tempo despite the early game going towards Zohair on that Wukong. Ever since picking up those kills, hasn't really done much.
Peels. I think you might be in a bit of a pickle here as all 4 members of Egonog are looking to punish this dog. And right now, I think he's probably not going to be able to get out here as Zohair is able to catch him, so he makes sure. But we actually see a Shockwave come out. I'm kind of surprised that we ended up using that here, as I think Peels is just going to buy enough time. But the kill goes over to Orianna, so she's probably okay with using Shock there.
And if I'm Cherry, I'm probably a little frustrated, right? Because this is twice where we've made a good play topside, but we overforce our hand, we overstay, and get punished for it.
Speaking of a good play here, Orion is in a very good spot here to potentially flank, but without a Shockwave, she's able to find Alternative, but honestly, there's not enough follow-up there as Alternative's just going to flash out. But this is really good aggressive positioning here from the side of Egonog, right? They have this Dragon coming up, and with Cherry already starting it, the Warped Ground is down, but the Seismic Shove misses. That is a lot of threat, and right now on the top side, we talked about it, Valka's absolutely wailing on that tower. As we're going to see, Wukong's able to pick up that dragon, and I think, Valka's able to get that top tower as well. That is a great play from Egonog there on both sides of the map.
That's 4-1, and I think, blue side could have been a little bit more aggressive, right? We know that the Orion ult was down. You just have to be aware of the Rel Misfortune combo. Probably could have poked and been a little bit more in their face, but instead just opt to kind of slink away, let them take the dragon, but not lose any more than that. So playing maybe a little bit hesitant because this is the do or die match.
Yeah. And I mean, I want to talk about kind of we've been mentioning the mid lane like skirmishes, right? There's been a lot of action top. There's been a lot of action mid, but right now bot lane, Ezreal is up almost 30 CS on this Misfortune, right? And while Misfortune has her value, right? They both have their first items completed. I think if Ezreal's going to be able to get involved, like he has the opportunity to make plays, right? He's going to have Arcane Shift to get out of potentially this Misfortune bullet time. If he's uncontested, I think he's going to be a really big threat for the side of Contingent.
Yeah, and I mean, for how poorly bot lane went early on, both Cherry and Bewa trying to kind of bring it back, finding some leads of their own, and we saw. We see the power of the Talia clear into the Wukong, and as long as they're not, getting ulted by everybody on the side of red, they should be okay.
Mm-hmm. And right now we're seeing the members of Contingent Orange take Shelly, get that objective for themselves, right? But now we see some aggressive trading bot as the shockwave comes out, but it is not enough damage to potentially get that final kill. As Quality's trying to go around here, trying to buy Helper a little bit of time to see if they can stall it out. But Alternative canceled his back here. This could be really bad for the Corki as Helper's willing to tank this tower and make it so Alternative's going to go to the grave here. Potentially see some gray.
I think Alternatives, wow, lots of damage onto Helper. Tries to turn it around, but unfortunately unable to do so. Meanwhile, the response from blue side, taking down mid tower, gonna get some damage on tier 2 as well.
Actually, honestly, I want to call it out. Good job on Quality for canceling that back and getting some value here. Trying to pressure this bot tier 1 is the play here, especially when the play realistically, it ends up being not the greatest trade, right? Alternative dies, but you end up losing a tower and a half mid, so trying to at least get this bot tier 1, pardon. But it doesn't end up happening. Now we position top as Valka unfortunately is going to potentially fall again as the Zenith Blade lands and Cherry is able to do enough damage, but the Aftershock I think is what killed it and gets Mocha the kill there.
Yeah,
but
and
now
you got flash, right? So you gotta flash those abilities. Unfortunately, Valka unable to do so.
It looks like Quality. We saw the aggressive TP from Quality earlier, but right now Peels is going for that aggressive TP and the play. But a great shockwave to peel it out and makes it so that Quality, even though Withered, is going to be able to walk away from this one.
Yeah, and was able to get the tower as well, right? You do have to blow your ulti and your flash, but do you get the tower and escape relatively unharmed? So probably a tower trade, obviously, but could have been worse.
I mean, it ends up being a 2-for-1 though at the end of the day, right? They were still able to get mid tower off the fact that Nasus was TPing in on that play. So while it ends up being not the greatest, right? A lot of sums were burned on the side of Peels, right? He used his TP, he used his flash. And while it ends up being a Quality flash, I think that's still really good from the side of Ego.
Yeah, looking at the gold, right? Pretty much dead even, only like 500, 600 difference. And this is what you want from a game 3, deciding game 3. Everything really on the line. We're just, waiting for one of these teams to break open the map, break open the game. And so far, it's just been, trade after trade, both teams playing really, really well.
Mm-hmm. And right now, most of this gold lead is on the Orianna for the side of Ego, right? They're sitting at about a 1,500 gold lead for Orianna, and she can get a lot of value. But honestly, this gold lead might be falling down as she's getting caught out here by an excellent seismic shove from Cherry, and it looks like the play's going to be dead. I just caster cursed him. I'm so sorry.
It happens, and, a cash leading into, some tempo for this potential dragon take, getting down vision, making it so that red side has a hard time walking into the Talia, but still Razor's edge, right? Not any team breaking it open quite yet.
Yeah, not just yet. I mean, both teams are still feeling each other out, right? It's only like, it's not even a 1k gold lead, but right, you see a little bit of a shenanigans here as the tier 2 tower is going to fall at the loss of Orianna, but hey, the Yorick up top, he's going to summon his
Yorick's going crazy.
Yeah, no one's going to match him right now, right? Peels used his TP on that potential engage, and it looks like they're going to ignore him for the time being. Well, it looks like Nasus is finally going to back, but I think that tower is gone as a result of it.
Tier 2 is definitely gone, and, Yorick definitely has the TP advantage, right? If Peels comes up to match, now it's kind of a hard dragon take if you're blue side because you won't have your top laner available to you.
Mm-hmm. But right now we see the members of Contingent Orange are denying vision to try to set up for this Mountain Drake, right? Make it so that Ego Nog cannot be on Soul Point. But we're seeing actually a TP come out from the side of Valka. They're trying to use the fact that Nasus is still stuck top. He's moving over, but they got to make something happen now if it's going to happen. right? We don't see an engager from Rel, but Zohair's getting involved. He has the the shockwave misses, unfortunately, as Cherry does a great job of flashing away. Right now, Mocha is soaking up a lot of pressure. Ruffian having to burn his cleanse, having to burn his flash, but he gets caught by the seismic shove. And it's a great combo there from Cherry as Ezreal's able to finish off this fight. But we see the Rel's gonna engage on all 5, land the lance on 5. It might be enough damage, we don't know. The shockwave went wide though. Wukong's able to pick up on Leona, and Valka's having to force to flash out as the Frozen Heart is getting so much value there for the side of Leona. Right now, we see Wukong actually finds the angle onto Corki as well. But Cherry, she's able to get the kill on Rel. But Wukong is getting so much value here as it's only the Ezreal and the Nasus left alive for the side of Contingent Orange. While on the other side, Egonog has the Yorick, the Orion, and the Wukong. This Wukong is so strong. And right now, when you only have one jungler up, I think it's going to be hard for the side of Contingent Orange to contest this.
Yeah, the combination of Wukong having Sundered Sky plus the shields coming out from Quality made that extended fight definitely in their favor. And you know, even though Ruffian went down early to a really well placed seismic shove from Cherry, you know, Red side comes out victors in the end.
Yeah, I honestly thought with the way that with the way that fight started, that was gonna be a win for Contingent Orange, right? Zohair went over the wall. He was able to get the engage, but that shockwave completely missed. It forced out Cherry's ultimate, and Ruffian died instantly to a seismic shove there. But honestly, Wukong got such good value there. And honestly, the 5-man Rel engage, that is a highlight, right? That champ is crazy. He was able to land all 5 with the lance, and like Wukong was able to get a ton of value. And like honestly, shout out to Helper for saving that fight.
Well, and you know that's a confidence builder, right? Because you know the gold is dead even, but you have 3 Drakes now, and you just want to fight that probably you had no business winning with your ADC going down so early. So really well played from Egonog, and we'll see if they can kind of take that momentum and ride with it.
Completely agree. Now, as both teams are kind of feeling each other out, right? Contingent Orange is in a very good spot here, contesting this vision, right? But we see, the seismic shove doesn't land on Zohair, and Zohair is able to walk away with the red on his team side. So while this vision is being choked out, all members are grouped. I think you still got to be careful. Zohair is making sure he doesn't get caught. The clone's taking some damage, but that one doesn't matter, right? As we see right now, I'm honestly surprised at how Contingent Orange isn't getting contested and is able to light up this jungle for free, it feels like.
And Contingent has a really good poke with the Talia, right?
But speaking of, we're seeing an aggressive create onto Cherry, and Cherry gets caught there as the bullet time, and the Rel is not enough as Nasus is trying to fight for his life, buy some time for his team, but I think they're willing to take that pick. That is massive. And right now that opens up the opportunity that Contingent Orange kind of has to be scared of Baron. I think with 4 members up, it's going to be tough, though.
Yeah, really good pick, but they've had pressure on the map, right? They've up until that point, we're doing a really good job of having like non-committal pressure, right? They weren't blowing Leona ult or engaged. They weren't necessarily over-forcing anything, as you see they all come out. But like I said, they're able to play slow and controlled, back off when they need to, and keep this pressure despite Cherry being down.
Absolutely, and it hasn't been mentioned yet, but right now, one thing I forgot to track completely is how's this Nasus doing stack-wise, right? And now what we're looking at right now is it seems that Nasus, as according to our producer, thank you, Mr. Producer, is sitting at almost 500 at 23 minutes here. But I don't think it's going to matter as Yorick is absolutely wailing on this dog right now. And I think right now, even though the weather happens, Yorick's going to continue to chase down, but it doesn't look like anything's going to happen here as the rest members of Egonog are trying to contest this mid-tier 2. But
yeah, Keel's forced to flash, and so you're already losing the extended trade, and now you don't have that flash. You're going to be really hesitant to match that Yorick, and so once again, Valka kind of showing their dominance in terms of side laning prowess, right? Games 1 and this game here, able to kind of ping pong that pressure and play to that advantage.
Absolutely, right? And I was a little worried, right? Cherry was able to get a lot of picks on Valka, but no, I hope I didn't curse it again as we see Cherry shows up. But echoing off of it, right? Like, Valka got a lot of pressure thrown into him, right? Cherry threw 2 Talia walls at him, and he died because of it. But he's doing a great job of keeping this game close, being a little stinker.
Peels wanted that mid so bad, and he couldn't quite get it. So being able to back with Yorick and regen their health, but we see a Baron start for Egonog with that pressure that Yorick was able to put down.
Absolutely, but Cherry on the Talia is one of those champs that can move around the map pretty fast with her wall, with her passive, that Stoneweaver, right? I think it's just going to be that back off, and that's what ends up happening here. But they wanted to let him know, hey, you can't do that for free. You can't show bot and get away with it.
And I mean, what a close game, right? Both teams kind of pulling some punches, not willing to take a fight or potentially force that Baron. not comfortable because they don't want to lose, right? Like this
Mhm.
is it. And
Yeah, this
we
is
we see some kind of hesitant play, some smart but hesitant play.
yeah. And I mean, we talked about it, right? I do think one thing that really needs to be cautious of is this Drake is spawning in just a second, right? And right now, the members of Egonog, they are on Soul Point. A Mountain Drake, a Mountain Soul for them will be absolutely fantastic, right? Stopping some of that Ezreal
Yeah.
damage, stopping some of that Corki damage. It's just great. It just gives you a little extra tankiness, right?
So the lane assignments are weird, right? We have soul point advantage. I would have liked to have seen York on top side, right?
Yeah.
Because we know we wanted to deny the soul, so why not force?
Oh, and speaking of deny, Helper getting caught out there, unfortunately, as they do a great job of denying vision and making it so Helper is going to fall. And that might be that soul point denial that we were talking about there.
Yeah, and I think it really comes back to those lane assignments. If you had York splitting top there, I'm not saying that Helper doesn't get caught, but what I am saying is that they're more hesitant to leave that side of the map wide open for York to run down and take a potential inhib, right? And so, I think the map kind of misplayed by Yugo Nog. Not the end of the world, right? This game's still really really close, but mistakes matter, and that could cost them.
100%. I do, as much as I like the Yorick here, I think you don't do as good. You don't get a lot of value on the champ when you're having a match, right? This Nasus is applying a lot of pressure, but I think Yorick wants to be by himself and he wants to be that stinker, right? He wants to be the champs like Tryndamere, Trundle, the ones that are absolutely just being like, oh my gosh, I have to go match him. But Nasus is a champ who's he's kind of okay to be on the side lane too, right? As we're sitting at about almost 600 stacks at this point in the game for the Nasus, which is really, really high at this point.
Sorry, Matt.
And now, Zohair starting the Baron, but doesn't realize Mocha's also hanging out there.
Yeah.
As he's just making sure no funny business happened.
Clones away. Yeah,
Clones
and
away.
I mean, it would have been nice to see the York put that pressure, right? Because you are in the driver's seat, you don't need that dragon, and so you could have had that chance to ping pong that we've seen Egonog do so well. Fortunately, falls short there, and so now they'll have to regroup and reassess, reevaluate, and see where they go. Playing really strong towards this Baron.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, I like it now, right? The Baron is the only objective up, but
Yeah.
Eric's just doing a good job. Now it ends up working, but
Yeah.
maybe a little too late. But I think it ends up being okay still. Is like right now it's only like an 800 gold lead, so it really does just come down to who's gonna play these team fights better, right? Like who's gonna potentially get caught out on this side. They haven't
Yeah, and I
traded
mean,
there.
the longer this game goes, like, I'm not quite sure who's favored. I mean, we have Nasus stacking, right? But we have York, he's big, and Oriana threatening with the ball, ult combo, and
yeah.
I just don't know, like, in 10 minutes, if it's the 40-minute banger, if they're all 5v5, I don't know who wins.
I actually don't know this. I just now thought about it. I think Nasus can get extra stacks from the ghouls on the side of Yorick.
Yeah, for sure.
Maybe that is why we see him potentially being a little bit accelerated in this, and that's like I think right now you've got to be careful. Honestly, it's talked about a lot how Nasus does have a bit of like a mid game spike, even though he's a late game scaler. But when you get to hyper late game, right, it doesn't. He's gonna still keep going, right, and eventually it's gonna be overwhelming for the side of Egonog. So they gotta potentially look for their outs here and find those wombo combo team fights that their team cup is built around.
Yeah, and York opting into like the full damage build, right? It's like that lethality bruiser build that we see so often, and kind of puts you vulnerable on these side lanes, especially with that Talia. Like we saw it so much in the early game. Nothing really prevents him from dying if they decide to send the house kitchen sink at him. So we'll have to see how because Nasus he has scaling in his queue, so he can go full tank and feel pretty good into this York.
I mean, that's what we're seeing, right? He just has that Trinity. We see 3 Trinities on the side of a Contingent Orange, right? The Trinity. The 3 Trinities?
Trinity.
Oh my gosh. But yeah, I just thought of it. But yeah, I mean, he's just going tank otherwise outside of that. I think right now, I know I mentioned it, but I think York's got to be a little careful matching the Nasus directly. I think he wants to be isolated. You don't want to just give Nasus free ghouls to get those extra stacks, right? Because that ends up adding up over time.
Well, you want to be isolated, but you also don't want to be on the same side of the melee objective because you want to have that split pushing pressure. And so, I mean, what do you do, right? Like, I mean, the longer this game goes, the harder and harder it is for Valkyrie to perform that job. And so,
this Nasus already apparently has 700 stacks at this point. This is like getting kind of out of. There is the chance that he could get to 1K in this game. As now, Fields is starting to feel himself, and I think he's like, "Hey, I got a lot of stacks." So we're seeing some aggressive trading on both sides,
he's
but
stuck.
he's getting stuck. As but we're also seeing some aggressive trading here from Mocha. But
Yeah, but
it's like nothing
Valky's
happens,
doing
and we're seeing. Actually,
Valka's
wait,
doing a
Angie.
great job.
Sorry, the maiden's doing a lot of damage here to this Nasus. I honestly thought it was going to be really one for Peels, but Valka's fighting back.
Yeah, and I mean Valka did a great job of dropping that wall and then basically waiting out the Nasus ult. As soon as you can't Q over and over and over again, there's a lot of damage that Nasus misses out on, and so really well played by Valka, forcing out that flash once again.
I also want to just highlight one of the most annoying parts about playing into Yorick is the fact that it's so oftentimes hard to get rid of the maiden, right? You know what, guys? I always call her Angie. If I call her Angie, you know who I'm talking about. But
Yep,
anywho,
we all love
that
Angie.
yeah, it's so hard to get rid of her a lot of the times, right? Because you're fighting a 2v1 constantly and you really want to be focusing the Yorick. But if that ghoul is still able to maintain itself and stay up all the time, it's absolutely really tough. And I think Valka's doing a great job of making sure that she stays alive in these fights.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how that matchup goes on, because I do think Valka played it really well. He gets the wall down. So what do you do as Nasus? You trying to get damage, but now you're stuck. You have to hit the wall, and there's a whole bunch of ghouls. Maybe you're hitting them, and it gets really annoying. So we'll have to see how that 1v1 keeps going. But
Now we're
still,
seeing some
once
pings
again,
around.
Razor's Edge.
Yeah, pings around mid lane, right? NA Ram as they call it, but and all the other top laners, right? Cherry's actually
where
not
York's
Cherry.
going, though?
Yorick is doing a good job of getting isolated on there, but we see Nasus is actually the one taking the dragon, making sure that they don't overextend, right? But we're seeing some aggressive posturing on this Baron now. They know that Cherry potentially is on this dragon, and they're potentially going for this flip here. I think it's scary, but oh, but we see Yorick actually right behind here. Oh, he catches out Leona, but I don't think that's the chip you want to set. And Valka, no! No, that's not where you want to be. And right now it looks like the Nasus is coming in. Ruffian's able to get the ult off, but I don't think it lands on enough as Alternative is fighting Ruffian. And I think right now Alternative is going to get too much damage off as Leona goes in, gets onto the Orianna. And I think right now this is so hard. Even with the Shockwave, I think Nasus is going to be able to run through this team. And right now it ends up being a 4-for-1 over to the side of Contingent Orange.
We were talking about, which team is going to take the advantage, which team's going to blow up in this game, and it turns out Valka with an ill-advised engage, nobody followed him, right? The Rel didn't follow him, but we didn't come off the Baron, and so Valka kind of looks like he's inting when nobody helps him, and so really, poor engage into a already lost fight.
And I think right there was an angle if they potentially waited for his team to find the angle, right? Just sit in the fog. Wait for the angle, but I think he was getting a little overcautious, right? They might have seen the TP, and unfortunately, the first person he runs to is the one you really don't want to see, right? Is that Leona does so much CC and just allows her team to absolutely burst down the Ghoul Man.
Yeah, it just comes down to feels like Valka was antsy, right? He wanted to break this game open, and he saw the opportunity with the Rel behind him, but nobody went with him. And so when you get into these, I mean, everybody's been in this game, right? Where you're playing League and it's it's close, no team really has the advantage. You want to make the hero play, but unfortunately it comes back to bite them. And so 3K gold lead isn't the end of the world, right? But it's a lead that could have been prevented.
100%. I mean, I still think Valka is able to get a lot of pressure, but I'm seeing that the dog has gotten to the point where maybe he's going to be able to spot him out. I think Valka does have the experience lead, but he does get spotted. But we see the E land onto Peels, but he's not caught in the cage, so he's going to be able to walk this one out.
Yep. Thankfully able to walk that one out, right? Because no flash available. Valka could probably just wailed on him. But, doing a good job playing on opposite side of the map, letting them kind of scout out this Baron. Sorry, I thought Cherry was going to get the knock up.
I mean, we've seen it a couple times here, but speaking of getting caught here, Peels is healing so much right now, just off of these Qs. I'm surprised that Valka has not opted into a little bit of Grievous Wounds at this point. I think they're able to potentially apply it. Maybe they don't want to go with the Kempunk Chainsword as that alternative, but still, they are healing so much. And right now, Nasus is back to full HP, right? But oh no, we're seeing a little bit of trading here as the clone is the one that gets caught, thankfully for the side of Ego Nog and not the actual target.
Yep, Zohair pulls out the get out of jail free card and able to do so, but now you're trying to approach.
Oh, big shockwave! Big shockwave lands on 2! As we see, it's able to catch out on Cherry. That is absolutely what you need to get back into this game, even with the arcane shift coming out and the ult from Ezreal. It's a true shot barrage, that's what it's called. But still, that is an excellent pick, excellent shockwave. Now, speaking of, we see Baywa might be caught up by Zohair, but Zohair gets shut down by Alternative. And that is so much gold coming over to the Corki here. And now, honestly, cutting bot, we see that Nasus finds the angle potentially onto Oh, never mind. No,
Mug is doing
Andrew's doing a great job.
so much damage. It's
That's
actually insane. I mean, half health in basically a second. But you know what was really great about that engage is Ori basically got it for free. We got a pick, but we kind of, you know, overextend, overforce, and unfortunately Zohair goes down all the same. There's a saying I like to say with the teams that I'm on. In the words of the dojo master from Napoleon Dynamite, you break the wrist, you walk away, right? You got the win, just walk away. You're trying to
yeah.
bite off more than you can chew, and unfortunately, you know, it's gonna cost you.
I respect the hustle there from Zohair, but I think right now you take everything you can, right? You don't want to be overconfident in these situations. I find it all the time in my scrims as well. Like it's about being consistent, taking that win. And right now, I think it's really, really scary that Zohair is giving over that shutdown to a Corki he's happy to scale into this late game.
Yeah, and I mean, once again, right? It's just that 3K gold lead that was accrued from that ill-advised fight a little bit ago, but it's anybody's game still. You know, we still have.
Oh, but speaking of, a great pick there from Zohair as he's able to force out Cherry's ultimate. Or not the ultimate, the flash. As we see now, the seismic shove goes wide, but Alternative is doing a lot of damage to Valkaz. I think Valkaz isolated. The flash is not enough as Mocha's still able to land on it, but Zohair is trying to buy enough time. Ruppian is getting the ultimate out. Quality. I don't know if he used his ultimate, but he's going to be falling here as Alternative is still able to do damage. Peels is buying so much time for their team as they're pinging the Wukong on the backside. Ruppian falls to the Ezreal. Ezreal's able to pick up the double kill, and
Might just
Zohair
for
is
the end.
not enough HP to potentially siphon this off. That might be curtains.
Yeah, alternative can back and TP, and that might be all she wrote.
I believe so at this point, as Peels, the Nasus, is going to be able to get so much value here. Mal Zohair is going to try to do his best. I think there is not enough damage in the world. The wave is too big. And unfortunately, that is curtains, and that will be the end of Ego Nog's season.
Yeah, and I mean, you know, it feels bad when you lose a series like that, right? Unfortunately, somebody has to lose. But I think both teams could be happy in the fact that they played really, really well. You know, kind of the stomps games 1 and 2, but then game 3 was anybody's game up until the final few moments.
Mm-hmm. And like we said, I think it was going back and forth, right? We saw so many good team fights from the side of Ego Nog as well as Contingent, but I think I was honestly just getting a little overconfident, right? Taking those wins and not just leaving them there, right? They were kind of chasing for more, trying to find a little bit too much. And right now we see that like that Wukong got caught there. I think that is massive. That is a lot of gold going over to Alternative, right? And just getting caught on side. Having Yorick honestly in these team fights is not the way you want to go in these fights, right? Keep him on side. He was able to deal with this Nasus, right? Like we saw that he was able to trade
Oh.
into the Nasus if he's able to contest. I think you want to honestly fight these 4v4 at the end of the day.
Yeah, and I think it was just, you know, it was the easy to execute comp, but we weren't on the same page, right? York was, you know, trying to be a presence in team fights when he probably shouldn't have. And, you know, Wukong was going in expending ult, but Ori didn't think it was going to get engaged, or Rel and Misfortune weren't there to be found. And so just these like near misses kind of ended up costing Ego Naga at the end. But on the same side, you know, props to Contingent for, you know, finding engages, punishing those mistakes, and playing a really good game.
Yeah, I think honestly, looking at the I guess gold graph and like the damage graph, right? Ruffian even in that game was not able to get up to 10k damage, right? I think that game is so hard for Misfortune, right? Those bullet times weren't able to land like they wanted, right? There's so much mobility with the Corki, with the Ezreal, with the Talia, who's going to be able to shove her out of that bullet time. I think it's going to be super super tough. But yes, also as mentioned, this is a best of 3, so this series does end here, unfortunately for us, but fortunately for the side of Contingent Orange, right? They're able to walk away, get a little bit of shut eye, right? Not go to bed pretty happy here.
Yeah, and they're moving on, right? So I believe they'll be facing Akuma Shurikens next. Will be an exciting matchup for them, and you know, so long to you, Nog, but hold your head high. You played well.
Yes.
So
Shout out to Ego Nog. Yeah, they've gone through a lot of roster changes, right? I think this roster put up an excellent performance, right? A lot of the teams in this Warden League are very close to one another, and I think the fact you took it to 3 games, right? This last game it went to 36 minutes. This was anybody's game, and while at the end of the day it didn't go the way that you want, you still got to be happy, right? You're gonna be disappointed for a couple days, obviously. Like
yep.
this is you don't want to lose, but still, like you should be proud of how you played, right? And go out of it, and we're hoping to see you guys next season.
Yeah, and I think we have some very exciting semifinal matchups to watch for. So I'm
Hmm.
looking forward to it.
Yeah.
Hopefully, more full 5 game series.
Hmm. Yeah, and I mean, we saw that it's going to be Akuma versus Contingent Orange, and on the other side, right, it's going to be Seneca versus NLE.
Mm-hmm.
I'm
Yep,
not mistaken.
Legionnaires. Yep.
I mean, those will be banger series, right? I don't know. We're going to probably be casting one of them, if not both of them, for you guys. But thank you guys so much for watching, right? It's already 11 o'clock, right? Imagine if this went to best 5. We've been up here all night, but still, it was a banger series, and we're going to be seeing some more banger series as the rest of our leagues get cooking into playoffs.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
Hmm. Have a good night, everybody.
Have a good one.